Pretty good. When you look at that roof, it sloped away, and I don't think the counter sniper guys could actually see the shooter yet. He was falling up. He was on his belly, and then what happened was, when an officer confronted him and they retreated, he turned around with his rifle towards the officer. What that did was make the guy move quicker. Then he popped up really fast over that peak and started shooting. That's when the guy on the sniper person, because you see them looking there, and they're probably saying, I see the roof, I don't see anybody. I see the roof, I don't see anybody. That's because he's behind that slight roof, and then he pops up, and then he starts firing, and then they fire back.
So let's just jump in here for just a second. At Bernie's rally, it was both. There was Secret Service there, and there was also, of course, the Boston VID. But like I said, that entire area was secure. Even a couple, actually I remember, even walking to the next block, it was still secure. Like they had that whole area, pretty tight down. So the reason why I'm going back to this is because I want to show you what was just released. Because you keep going back to this, and I think it's really important. Check this out. This is new. Judicial Watch, this is who it's coming from. They are out with a bombshell in their Thomas Crooks FOIA findings. So let's get to that. We'll come back to that document that's there. So this is what was dropped. Judicial Watch, FBI records reveal Crooks emails the deputy. So this is Thomas Crooks, and this is the information that they recovered. So people are like screaming about this online right now. Judicial Watch announced today that it forced the release of 48 heavily redacted pages from the FBI through a Freedom of Information Act, so the FOIA. This was a lawsuit revealing that a Butler County Sheriff's deputy exchanged emails with would-be Trump assassin Thomas Crooks prior to July 13, 2024 shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. The records also indicate that a special weapons and tactics, so SWAT officer, recovered a gray remote device with an antenna from Crooks' pocket after he was killed. So I knew about the remote device before. But the part we want to focus on is this email exchange between Thomas and the Butler County Sheriff deputy. So why are we just hearing about this now? That assassination attempt was in 2024. And what we're going to show you, because we have the document, what we're going to show you is that Thomas apparently had email exchanges between himself and a Butler County sheriff, allegedly. Prior to the assassination attempt. And all this time that's gone by, they didn't mention this. It took this organization looking into this further and more deeply to get it pulled out. And even then, it's heavily redacted. And now people are asking the question, is it possible that the sheriff's department knew about this prior, or they were warned, or they received some type of alert in this email exchange from Thomas Crooks that could have prevented that entire incident? And if that's not the case, then why is it so heavily redacted, which I'll show you in just a second. Let's go on a little bit more here. Here's something else it reveals. The records also show that a medic with the Beaver County Emergency Services Unit told the FBI that she was on the roof of the American Glass Research Building examining Crooks' body when she was informed that a police canine had hit on the building, and she was told to evacuate the roof where Crooks' body remained. So the body was left unattended for some point in time. Also, this is a medic So the medic that was with the emergency service unit, she was told to leave that body because there was a canine, I guess, hit on it, to leave the body. In other words, I don't know how many times, Thomas Crooks was shot or whatever, but in other words, the medic is there to try to see if they can help in some way, shape, or form revive the person who was shot or injured, if they're dead or not. But I believe the whole thing was to make sure that he wasn't alive. I believe there was no intention, similar to the whole thing with Thomas, with Tyler Robinson. I believe that Tyler Robinson really was not supposed to survive that day. And then you wouldn't have all these questions. It was just going to be, that's the guy who did it, that's it. So the medic leaves the body. How do we know if Thomas Crooks was still alive or not at that point in time? You take emergency services away, now he's certainly for sure going to die. And people say, well, what would be the intent of that? Well, they don't want him to live because they don't want him to talk. That's how I see it. Let's continue on more here. So it also goes on to say that Judicial Watch, they filed the July 2025 lawsuit after the FBI failed to respond to the 2024 July FOIA request. They wanted all records related to Crooks and the assassination attempt on then presidential candidate Donald Trump. The request included investigative files, interview summary reports, communications media, and database records, as well as any FBI communications across all formats between the FBI, personnel sources, contractors, or assets, and Crook himself. So they were demanding everything he released. Now check this out. A heavily redacted July 17, 2024 FBI electronic communication titled "Disc of 5 Deputies of the Butler County Sheriff's Office that were conducted on July 16th, 2024. I think that
should it
discovery.
Stay or should it go?
Summarizes interviews conducted with the deputies from the Butler County Sheriff's Office. One deputy revealed that she had exchanged 2 emails with Crooks. Further information about the nature of those emails were redacted. So not one email, but 2. 2 emails with him prior to the event. Let's look at that document.
Have you ever had to buy a gift for a kid?
So here it is here. This is going to make it bigger for you guys. You don't read along with me. All right, there we go. Here it is. FBI.
It has tons of great options for
Look at the redactions.
From babies all the way up to teens.
So the date of entry for this was July 17th of 2024.
Exclusives, and much
And you're just now receiving this information. On Wednesday, July 17th, 2024, Special Agent Blank telephonically interviewed blank blank. Telephone number, redacted. Email address, redacted. Work address, redacted. After being advised the identity of the interviewing agent and the nature of the interview, redacted provided the following. Let's go on. Redacted advised she, blank blank, Thomas Crooks, in the redacted, therefore redacted with Crooks. Redacted advised she did not recognize Crooks when everything was on the news over the weekend, but on Sunday night, a New York Times reporter emailed her asking questions. You see this? And how did the holdup? The New York Times reporter who emailed her, how did they know? Who was the New York Times reporter? How did they know to email this particular officer? Goes on to say here, redacted advised she checked her emails and records and only had 2 email communications from Crooks, and both emails were in regard to redacted. In regard to what? Redacted advised she did not have any personal interaction with Crooks. Redacted. Okay, here's the problem. Why is this redacted? only had 2 email communications from Crooks, and both emails were in regard to redacted. Both emails were in regards to what? None of this should be redacted. And if there was nothing said in those emails that could have prevented what happened on the 13th, why is it redacted? So this was all a plan, and in my opinion, this was all planned. And at no point in time, especially right now, should this be redacted. A lot of people are sharing this information now. Of course, there's the record for it here. Kaylin also said what is more perplexing is the New York Times reference in this electronic communication. A New York Times reporter emailed her asking questions. Redacted advised, again, she checked her emails and only had 2. Again, why are we just hearing about this now? If you go back to the original document here, Judicial Watch, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. He goes on to say here, redacted confirms she was present at the Butler County Fairgrounds for the Trump rally. Her responsibilities included providing medical backup for the ESU or any police response. She arrived at the fairgrounds at 9 a.m. and was positioned at the spectator screening area. She was there, apparently, according to this. Had it not been for this organization looking further into this, we wouldn't even know this right now. This is crazy when you think about it. And let's all remember, it was after this assassination attempt that Donald Trump soared in the polls. It was a little bit closer before then, and then he kind of jumped. That's when he soared up. No reason that information should be redacted. And you want to hear something else strange? This is what Donald Trump just said recently. I guess he was meeting with the farmers. He talks about his ear. Listen to this.
You have a way of life that sometimes you're land rich and cash poor, sometimes you're lots of different conditions, but people that are on farms love being on farms. You wouldn't trade my life, you wouldn't want my life, believe me, you don't want it. Your life is much better than my life. I will tell you, your ear wasn't a little pierced over here, you didn't get pierced. You have a nice, safe, beautiful life, but I've seen it with farmers maybe more than any industry. People want to have their farm, it's a way of life, and they love the life on the farm. And the family.
Your ear didn't get pierced. Just a weird way of describing it to me. Guys, I'm telling you, like, there's a lot of psyops going on around there, but the reality is this. There is no reason that that information should be redacted at this point in time. That is very strange. And then go back to what that former FBI agent said in the Law and Crime video. How did he know? How did Thomas Crooks know that that building was not going to be secure? You mean to tell me that he just took his chances on a whim with a ladder and a rifle? No, he knew. How did he know? And then you find out that he had email communication between himself and that sheriff prior to the assassination attempt. The only problem is we don't know what was said in that email exchange because it's redacted. And why are you just hearing about it now? It's a psyop. It's a big one. Some people called it early on and they said, look, this is staged, da-da-da-da. The more information that comes out about this is very concerning. One of the things that we found suspicious earlier on at that time was that Thomas Crooks was also in a BlackRock commercial. That was just kind of random. You know, it's just like, okay, this kid's in a BlackRock commercial. It's weird.
It's a family farm where
And Donald Trump has had multiple assassination attempts since then. Come on, guys. Big psyop here. They're covering up for something. They're hiding something. And
we can't afford it.
luckily, more people are waking up, though. Hey, guys, this was a savvy clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.
Corded and gas power tools to meet your every need at prices that can't be beat. Harbor Freight, your outdoor power destination.
Hold on.
A Michigan man is reported missing, but days later a teenager stumbles upon a gruesome discovery, a severed foot and other body parts.
At Dead River Company, we know your trust is earned.
Why spread your money across multiple prediction markets when you don't have to? Access the 3 major U.S. prediction markets on.
The election was totally rigged. It was a rigged election, just like they're rigging the election right now, it looks like in California. Can you imagine? It's 4 days, and they still aren't even close to telling you who won. You know why? Because they're rigging the election, that's why. You know, in Spain, they had it like, I'm not a big fan of Spain, to be honest with you. It's gone very far left. But they had an election. All the votes were in, similar size to the state of California, a little larger actually, and every vote was in by 10 o'clock in the evening and counted. You're going to be waiting weeks to get these votes. It's corrupt.
California was once the land of opportunity. Now, everybody's wondering what happened to it. There's homelessness everywhere. You got Skid Row. You got all types of woke policies. People are going broke. It's a lot of crime. It's just bad. The taxes are extremely high. My sister lives in California, and her taxes are absolutely outrageous. It's just really sad what happened to what was one time the best state in America. The best state in the best country in the world is now a third world country, some would say. That's why Spencer Pratt actually has a chance, because even though his policies aren't very woke or very typical LA, people are suffering from financial crises, danger, crime, you name it. They're suffering from it out there.
A disturbing case unfolded
They
on
also
September
don't allow
18th.
you to write
when
anything off.
41-year-old
So that
Justin
poses the
Stillwell
question,
was
who's
reported
benefiting
missing.
from all this?
Detectives
And why do
reportedly
ordinary
retrieved
Californians
surveillance
feel like they're
video
paying
from
more and
his
receiving
home
less?
in
For
Florida.
decades,
It
California
showed
has been
Justin
governed by the
arriving
same
from his
political
home in
class,
Bay City,
and the
Michigan,
promises have
on
been
September
similar.
15th.
More spending,
However,
more
that
programs,
year,
more
Trump
regulations, yet the
investigators
state's problems
learned
remain.
who's
It's
actually
unaffordable,
meeting someone.
homelessness is
Another
growing,
man
there's
who
drugs
was
everywhere,
being
there's public
reported.
safety concerns,
Justy would
there's
end up having
wildfire
a
management,
fatal encounter
half the
with
state
his
just burned down, the
Unknown to
schools
his
are
loved ones at
performing
the
low,
time,
the
he seemed
utility
worried
costs are
when he
rising.
didn't show up
I
to work
forgot
on
about the
September
fires. They didn't even have
18th
enough water
and
for the
reported
fires.
missing.
So now
The
many
same
voters are
day
beginning to
after
ask,
the
is
discovery
California
was made
collecting
along the
enormous amounts of
shoreline
tax
of the
revenue?
river.
Why aren't these
That's where a
things improved?
teenager
Alright, so I have
reportedly
family
found
that
a
lives in
foot
California,
and
and
more
the
severed
tax
body
bill
parts,
there
including
is
arms and legs
astronomical.
in
I actually
Saginaw
didn't even
River,
believe it when I
that
was
were
told how
confirmed
much
to
they're
be the
paying in
body
taxes.
of Justin
And it's like,
Stillwell.
okay, I understand you gotta pay a lot of taxes to get, a lot of quality things done. But it seems like they're paying high taxes and no things are being done. They have food on the streets. Nobody can afford anything. Homeless people everywhere, but yet they still have the highest taxes. I really don't understand why.
To
That's why Spencer Pratt said he's running. It's because his house burned down because they're using tax dollars on bullshit, but they didn't have no water when it was time for a wildfire. Yeah. That's crazy.
Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What did you say that? Have you no response to that? Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burned? Did you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions
I
of
take
dollars
just
out
to
of
make sure
there?
this is reason for all
Have you nothing to say today?
I'm sure what they know.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today in dealing with this disaster?
Portions of the body cam video were redacted. However, minutes later,
The average American, we can't control politicians, we can't control taxes, we can't control government spending, we can't control election fraud or any of the tax fraud or where any of our money goes. Guys, we can't control anything at this point. Even Trump himself said that a lot of these people are doing election fraud. He said specifically in the California elections, they are doing fraud right now. So my vote, maybe discarded due to fraud, or we got homeless people voting, or we got illegal immigrants voting, what can we control? Yeah, because I know some of us believe that if we elect the right people, maybe we can have more of an affordable life, or have the system that we want, financial freedom. People believe it's the people that we're electing. But if we can't control who we elect, what can we control? The only thing you can actually control is your financial education and making sure that you have the skills and the knowledge to provide and take care of your family. That is why we're bringing today's guest, Mark Wilburn. Mark has spent years teaching ordinary people how to step out of the line of fire and build a life of financial freedom that remains independent of the chaos. Mark, when you look at California today, what do you think is the biggest economic challenge facing ordinary families?
Personally, I think it's this rampant spending, governmental waste, and fraud that's coming through most of these politicians. That's what Spencer Pratt's actually campaigning against. And I think he's doing a heck of a job, man. His ads are hilarious. But the truth is, it's not just California, it's everywhere. I know you guys probably talked about the Nick Shirley, the Smalley fraud stuff going on up in Minnesota. That's just another example of what happens when you've got the wrong people in power. And so we're seeing folks get elected to serve the public interest, and instead of serving, they're allowing fraud, they're allowing waste, they're padding their own pockets at the expense of the constituents. It seems like they care more about illegals rather than their own citizens. And so to me, this is why California's suffering. I mean, didn't they just have that mayor, Elaine Wang, or the Wang lady? She was a Chinese spy. And so these are the people that the state has elected, and they're fighting for the wrong folks. They're not fighting for Californians. And so, to me, yes, the policies matter, but it's the realization that no one's coming to save. Like, if you're going to save you, it needs to be if you're going to help your family, let it follow you. That is something I'm realizing. Nothing we can do. I mean, we can try to vote other people, and to me that's why you got Spencer Pratt.
We're good all the way back.
Surging in the polls. He's doing
just the basement.
But as far as electing different policies to actually care for Californians, I think he's the one who can do that outside
Let's
of
just do the basement quick.
Just about LA,
Upper floor is good.
The entire state, but the entire state's ran in a very similar fashion. There's corruption everywhere from it.
Why do you think that people in California who are working hard and they're trying their best, and they got a good job, a degree, and everything, but they're continuing to fall further behind? Why do you think that is?
And California, it's the taxes. I mean, there's so many businesses that bounced out of that state during COVID and a couple years afterwards. You all love California, let me put it that way. They got a lot of business out of folks moving. But when you look at, they have some of the highest gas prices in the nation because they have such a high tax on that. And when you go into the Iran conflict, and we're seeing gas prices up 50% on the year. Y'all remember when we went into Venezuela and took out Maduro?
Yes.
Gas prices were around like $55 to $60 in that range. Now we're up here 90 to 100. We're kind of hovering in that range. You're up 50%. You add on top of that the taxes that California has on gas prices, and that's why people are feeling it so hard at the pump. That's why people are feeling it so hard in the supermarket, because you have to pay fuel to actually get there. That's why airline prices are increasing. It's not because Spirit is not giving competitive enough pricing. It's because the oil prices that have increased. And we can get into, I think Trump's trying to make a play here to make the Americas, to make the West the go-to for oil, for power, for resources. I think that's a smart move. But intermediate, there is people who suffer because of the increase in prices, and inflation is going up. I think it was at like 3.8 or something like that. It was well above the 2% goal the Federal Reserve is aiming. And so when that happens, that impacts all areas.
Of the body. As the community was left reeling after the shocking crime, many questioned why did this happen. According to a report by ABC 12, Tweeby's attorney is pushing for him to get a psychiatric exam. Tweeby reportedly has a history of mental illness and made troubling statements on social media.
One of my favorite proverbs is Proverbs 18:21. It says, "The power of life and death is in the tongue." That's where most people kind of stop on that verse. They're man, the power of life and death is in the tongue. But if you look at it, it actually says that those who love it eat the fruit thereof, which means you have the ability to create your world with your words, because your words eventually become your actions, and that creates a reality around you, right? When you look at
Before his
historically, the
arrest,
stock
he wrote on
market
social
under
media,
Biden,
turning my
markets
life
were up
over
about
to God.
60%.
On
You know,
the
in
process to
Biden,
determine
I've
if
heard
TB
people
is
call
confident
Biden
enough
the
to stand
Biden
trial
complete
could
Biden
take
years.
weeks
I did pretty
to
good.
remain
I'm in the
behind
markets
bars
all the time
and
with a skill
jail.
set. 60% runs are
Let's bring on
nice. You know what I'm
retired
saying?
FBI
You know, Trump 45, I call it Trump 1.0. But when he was in the first go around, it was up about 65%. Right now we're up about 27 under Trump 2.0 coming in. But my point here is it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in office. The market is going to change. The question is, are you going to educate yourself in a way to
Well, it
take
sounds like this
advantage
person
of
that
it?
was on
Because
the
there is
grinder rap,
always opportunity.
that got
I look at it like an
the
ocean
perpetrator
wave, man.
was
If
looking
you're a
for
surfer,
victim.
you're not looking at the ocean
Looks like
like
he found somebody
waves
that
get
was
made today. You're
very
getting out there and you're
vulnerable,
saying, hey,
and then,
there's gonna be waves,
probably
but is there gonna be
thought
one
that he
I
could get
like
away
enough
with
to
it
ride? And
because
that's how I
this
view the
person
stock
didn't
market. Like
necessarily
there's
have a lot
always
of family
opportunity,
members or a
but
lot
is
of
there enough
connections.
opportunity for me to get in and engage it? You
Joe
know, for sure Trump
Baldacci,
wants people to
the
win. Here's the thing about
hand-picked
Trump.
best man
He's
of
got a
dark
lot of
money
flack in the
DC.
media. I'm sure y'all
He's
seen
been
this
broke
about
by DC,
like Trump's
and he
insider
quoted
trades.
them,
I don't know if y'all
not
saw
us.
the unusual
The
wells
truth?
and exposed
Joe
where it says that
Baldacci
he's
is the
invested
only
in all
Democrat
these different
running for
companies.
Congress who's
The
still
difference
hating
between
Trump
him and a
and opposes
Pelosi, though,
implementing
like
Medicare for
Pelosi
all
was trying to be
mayors now.
secretive. Trump's
Good
out
for
there
the
like, go buy Dale.
establishment, bad for mayors.
And then you come to find out, like, he's bought a ton of Dale, and it skyrockets, you know, another 100%, so that the average person can buy. Do you remember 2025 and all the tariff scare when everybody was terrified of the tariffs? And he came out, he's like, hey, today's a good day to buy the stock market. And that was the literal bottom, and it took off, right? So Trump is trying to tell people what to do. You just have to have the knowledge to go and do it.
A lot of people are missing out on these trades. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, have been led to believe that one of the only paths to wealth is saving money and hoping for the retirement accounts to grow over decades.
A dream that I had
what
no
other
idea
things are they
was
missing out
my dream
on
until I
as far as
started it.
investments?
Well, man, when we
chose
talk to people
the
about the
certified-
markets, the most
Yeah.
common feedback
And
I
obviously
get
this
is it's
thing,
gambling,
you know,
it's
went
risky, it's
sideways
erratic,
very
it's
quickly,
volatile,
and
you
then
don't
it
know
was a
what's going to
horrific,
happen,
end
and
to
folks
this
are taught
person's
to
life.
buy and hold forever. And personally, I hate that. Here's why I hate it. I don't believe in buy and hold forever. I believe in buy and hold to a target. Like, there's a reason you
Well, I
put
think
money in the
that
market.
level of
Why would you
violence
put
shows
money in
me
the
that
stock
this may have
market? To make
happened
money,
again.
to multiply your
To
money,
do
right? So
something
that your money
that
grows.
horrific,
To me, it makes no
shows
sense
a
to see a
level of
stock grow,
comfort,
not
with
take
the
advantage
way
of the
he
growth,
attacked
and then see it drop all
that
the way
victim.
down like we have
So,
so many times
in
with
terms
so
of
many
law
stocks. Like, go
enforcement, I'm
look
sure
at
they're
PayPal
looking
right
at
now.
his
You go look at
phones
Figma
and
right now.
his
These are stocks that
background
started out looking
everything
really
else in
good, and
his
then they're
history to see if
dropping
there's any other
60, 70,
victims out there,
80%.
especially
That
the
doesn't
grinder
help
app.
anybody. And so if
And,
you can
looking
learn
at his
how to
activity on
invest your money into a
app as far
target
as
and then
who
pull your
else
money
has had
out, it
interactions.
works.
And it's not
And so
enough just
we just
to
don't have the
murder
financial
Justin Stilwell.
knowledge
He
to do
allegedly
that
dismembered
because
his
we're not
body
taught
and
it in
scattered
schools.
the
People aren't
pieces
taught it
in
by their
different
parents.
areas,
Most
which
people's
is
parents
just
didn't know to
horrific.
teach them.
In
So
your
there's a
experience,
huge
what's the
need
process like
for
investigating
education
a
to
dismemberment
develop
case as
so
opposed to
let
just
me ask you guys a question. When
regular
we talk
murder
about
case?
gambling, the first thing that
Well,
comes to everybody's
it's
mind is the
basically
casino,
common
right?
sense. I mean, you have to
So it's a
gather
casino
all the
gambling.
pieces
Yes.
together, literally, to
It
make
depends
sure
on
they're
are you
all
the
part of the
casino or are you
same
the person attending?
body or crime
House
scene.
always
And
wins.
the fact that
That's
he
what we
did
hear.
this
The house always
demonstrates
wins. So
that it was,
if going to a casino is
he claimed that it was
risky,
because
and
he
these are
couldn't move the
games
body,
that have a
but I think
1%
it's more
probability
that
of winning,
he
right? Like
got
it's
some
a
sort of
51 to
perverse pleasure out
49%
of
odd of their
doing this to
success.
this
What
poor
they've done
person.
is they've
And then, of course, like I
systematized
said,
putting the odds in
the
their
law
favor.
enforcement
And that's what
is
we're going
going
to
to
be
have to
showing
gather
you
all
how
the
to
pieces
do
of
on that
evidence
webinar
together
that you mentioned,
and
Solomon.
then test, make
And so
sure
we're
they're
going to show
all
people
part of
the
the
same
crime
framework we
scene,
use to have
and
a
then from there go on to the
71% win
next
rate
level in
over
terms
the
of
last
each
3+
piece.
years. The
Unfortunately,
same system people
it
used
is what
last
it
year
is.
to make 20,
They'll
30,
try to
sometimes
find
70% return
evidence
last
off the
year,
bat
like
that
legit
links the
students,
body
just like
or
folks
the pieces
watching.
back to the person that
And
did
the
this
same
crime.
one Wayne used today, that he made 58% in 20 minutes
someone
on
to
this
death
same
seems
system.
like such a personal crime, but from what we know
Yeah, so
right
this
now,
graphic
that
right here,
even
man,
was
this
the
is our
first
swing
time
trades.
that
These are
they
trades that we
actually met.
hold for
What's your
weeks on
reaction
end.
to
And you can see right here, we averaged
the
win rate
defendant in
last
this
year of
case allegedly choking the
78.2%
victim to death as
winners.
opposed opposed to,
on this.
what
If
we
you look
normally
at this
see,
other
like
sheet,
shooting debt or
if you look
something
at this
a
other sheet,
little
this is
less
our day
personal.
trade call outs because
Well,
they're different
that kind of
strategies. You'll learn both of
method
them
of
at
killing
the
somebody
pre-event. We
indicates
actually had
a
an
very,
86% win
a
rate
very
on our call outs for
emotional
options
connection
last year.
and a level of violence. And emotional from two perspectives. Number one, either anger or from the perspective of he was getting some sort of positive feedback per se in his own mind from doing that to his victim. So for him
Guys, this is just a
to be
skill
that
set.
close
And I
and
can't,
personal,
obviously I
it
can't come out
tells
here and
me,
promise that
number
this
one,
year we're going to have an 86% win rate,
that
but I
there
can
was some
say that
sort
the last
of,
3 years we've had a
he was getting some
71.
sort of perverse pleasure out of
That's
this.
pretty daggum good
And secondly,
success.
he was very comfortable with the way he was doing this, which would indicate to me that
And so when you
there's
hear
possibly
people
other
say, well,
victims
you know,
out there.
trading in the stock market
And
is
a friend of the
gambling,
victim had
it's
alerted
risky,
investigators
there's
who went
always
to
an
meet
element
up
of
with what
risk
we
if
now
you're
know
trying
as
to
the
gain
user
financially. That is a
operating app under the
legit
handle board.
biblical
Then
law.
they tracked
You
down
have to
board to his
risk. How many of
location,
you ever heard
working
risky
with
for the
the
business?
defendant
Right?
in this case.
You gotta
What
put the
all goes
risk in.
into retrieving cell phone
However,
data in
you can
cases
take
like
a
this, and people
mitigated
get helped
risk with a little bit of
investigators because
understanding.
Grindr
So I'm
does
not
share
talking about
users'
going out here
locations.
YOLO,
Well, I
buying
think
an
that's
account, putting all
exactly
your
what
money
they
at risk,
did.
trying to have a home run. I'm talking about
The
consistency
law enforcement's got
over
very
time.
sophisticated
Every
with
single
using
day,
cell phones and these apps,
being
as well as
patient,
that
waiting
the
for
apps
your
have also
trade,
gotten
waiting
very
for the
sophisticated
waves
with
to
interacting with
surf,
law enforcement,
so to speak.
give them
And
the
if you get it, you
information
get
they're
it. If
looking
you don't,
for,
you don't take it.
but it may have just been a matter of getting the person's cell phone, firing up the Grindr app, and then just seeing where the location points are. But the other thing is, excuse me, they may have got the victim's cell phone and pulled the location data off of that, and then they could go ahead and track it back to the perpetrator's house. And then, of course, the next step would be, once they gets a perpetrator in custody, they're going to get his phone, and they're going to look at what's going on there, and certainly going to look at his Grindr activity.
No, you don't tell me that.
Just go to Casey's home and arrest him. They were armed with tactical gear.
Come on, man. You gotta text me this kind of stuff, man.
It all kind of goes into that process as opposed to kind of just walking up with two detectives and placing the suspect.
Well, I think it's a matter because of the violence that they suspected, the fact that there was a dismembered body. Automatically, the law enforcement officers are going to take all precautions to protect themselves, and also give that impression or give that make sure the person on the other side understands that they mean business, so they don't do anything stupid, right, in terms of pulling out a weapon or try to flee. And so I think the law enforcement officers did it exactly right. They went in with a tactical team, got him in custody quietly and quickly, and then most importantly, they did it safely, and secondly, they were able to preserve all the evidence that was in that house.
Do you see this case going to trial, and if so, how important will the evidence be in this case?
I don't see it going to trial because the evidence is so overwhelming, unless they opt for, I don't know if there's a death penalty in this particular jurisdiction. If that's the case, then the bad guy wouldn't have any reason not to go to trial. But in terms of the case itself of the trial, the evidence appears to be overwhelming against him, and then it's going to come right back to that location data on the two phones, as well as the Grindr app that's going to basically sync this guy as far as being the bad guy. And most likely, they got a confession from him, because it sounds like he didn't have a lot of interaction
that's actually one of the dangerous things about the market.
So he wasn't prepared
so
to stand up
that
questioning.
people try to go in without any kind of training. And they're like,
This
oh, I
is
can do that,
interesting
right?
in a way
Like,
that it's
if
so
you use a track
resonating in the
example,
sense that
I
so
know
many
you guys
people
run a
use
track.
dating apps, whether
Y'all
it
make
be
running a
men or
400
women.
look easy. If I went out there and tried to sprint a 400 right now, I would pull a hammy.
Hoping to find love,
100%.
essentially.
Like,
But
gone
how
on the ground.
vulnerable do
There's
you think that
preparation that you
people
have
can
to do
use
to do
these
it. There's
apps
knowledge
where,
that
you
needs
know,
to
by
do it.
all
There's a
accounts,
proper
some
way to
people
run.
just go
There's a
to
proper
meet
way
up
to
with other
stretch. There's a
people?
proper way to get warmed up, right?
How
You don't
vulnerable
just
do
go out
you
there and
think
sprint.
users are on
That's
the
the
apps,
same way
especially, you
when it
know,
comes to
from what we
swing
see on
trade
an
and
app,
day trade.
it's just a
And to
picture,
your
a
point,
face,
Solomon,
and
we
maybe a
have
little
most
blurb
of
in
our
their bio,
people
but
involved in
what's your
our
thoughts,
system. They're
especially
working
since
full
so
time.
many
And so we
people use
teach
dating
a
apps,
way
either
that
Grindr,
training
Hinge,
amplifies your
Tinder, all
life,
of
not
that
takes
sort.
away
Well,
from it.
because of the
One of my
anonymity
favorite emails
of
I've
the
got
apps
is from one of our
themselves,
students named
they
Keith, who drives trucks.
present
Last
a
year, Keith made
significant risk
over
to people,
$70,000
regardless of
trading
the
our
app.
system
And for
as a truck driver.
a person
And what
would
he would
use
do
the
is
app
we
and
call it
then
out a
to
trade,
meet that
he
person,
would
then
pull
go into
over,
their house
put the
without
trade
having
in, and
the
then 4,
history
5,
of that
6, 10
person.
days later,
And
when
then
it
there's
hit the
also,
target, remember, we're not buying this
and I work
forever.
in the private
He would just
investigation
go
field
ahead
as
and have an
well, that
automatic
there's
sell
a
order.
lot of services
In the
now
middle of
that
the driving,
will
ding,
help somebody
looks
do
down,
a
boom, he made
background.
money.
So they
His
meet
money
on
was
exams to
working
ensure that,
for him.
not
And that, I
necessarily sure,
think
but
that,
just give them
that
some sort
mindset
of
shift for people, like when you can have your
comfort
money
that the
working as
person's
hard
not,
for
you
you
know,
as
married
for
or,
him, that
God forbid, a violent perpetrator or have a history of as a sex offender.
I like that a
And
lot.
so it really comes down
I'm
to
excited
people need
about
to
this.
use some
I'm excited about
common
something
sense,
like this.
although Mark Twain said
Thursday,
common
June
sense is not
11th
very
at 4
common.
p.m. Eastern,
And
or
they just
Saturday,
need to
June
take a step
13th
back when they're
at
using these apps
11 a.m.
and make sure they
We will
understand
be
who
there
they're
as well.
interacting
I'm
with
taking
and
notes,
take
watching
proper procedures.
everything. I'm
For
excited.
example,
I'm super
don't meet
excited
them
about this, actually.
in a
Make
place
sure
that's
you guys don't miss
non-public
this.
on that
Click the
first,
link in the description and sign up, and
interaction.
make sure you're there. This is
Well,
life-changing
I appreciate
skills
your insight
and
into
ways
this
to
case
make
so
money.
much.
Like he
Before we
said,
send you off, is there
you
anything
want your
else
money
you'd
to
like
work
to add?
harder for you
No, I
as you
just
do for
basically,
it. The event
rent is completely
really want
free. if
say
you
that
have a
people
lot
need
of
to be
training
really
experience
careful
or
with
not a
these
lot of
apps.
training experience like
It's,
me, you
you
can
know,
learn
it's
so much
fit-
from this event.
filling a
And
need in
every
terms
time
of
we have an event with Mark,
cyber
I
culture
take so
now,
many notes
but
because I
also it's
learned
creating
things that I've never
opportunities for
learned
some
in
bad
school.
people to do bad things to people who are just out there looking for either a good time or for love.
All right, Colin Schmidt, again, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Online court records show Robert Tweedy is still behind bars in the Bay County Jail in Michigan and is being held on $1 million bond. His next court date is slated for January. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Leslie McMillan.
20 years of bigotry and hate from Graham Plattner. He calls police officers all actors. And Plattner insults black people, saying they don't exist. Read more at bigotedplattner.com. My free results pack is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Meet the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee, where premium meets powerful with legendary quadra-track 2 4-wheel drive and max capacity. No road is off limits. Inside, the massive Uconnect display keeps you in charge, while available massage seats keep you relaxed. And with 3 rows of available seating, there's room for all the gang. Your adventure deserves the perfect vehicle. Come find yours at the Declaration of Deal sales event.
Come get your team at the place with your dog.
So I want to ask you, people are going to be watching this as a national audience, right? And they may be asking themselves, what is censor rap?
You don't know anything about it. It's under your house.
Dude, I never thought this would be my life.
I'm a man who should speak for America. Was a national story when she had 7,000 and 12 people in my neighborhood.
Saturday, April 1st, 2023, Aurora, Colorado.
So that she didn't just
Hello, non-emergent Peters and Ethan. How can I help you?
from Los Angeles. So the national story is actually why I'm searching across the country. Because they say finally someone is stepping up against these politicians. They can burn your whole town down. Let your tax money all go into increasing drug addicts and funding the kids to park.
What's your son's name?
Persona is a reality star. It's always been all about Spencer, at least in front of the cameras.
So how do you convince
How old is he?
You care about your neighbors. You care about your people. You just don't care about yourself. Because the last decade, more than that, it's been all about Spencer.
techniques have been about my wife?
Yeah, right.
Good guy, yeah. That's my, I was always fighting for my wife.
That she knows he was killed, she knows the address, and she knows the people involved.
Okay, I'm gonna put a call in for them.
The operator alerts Aurora PD's Homicide Division. 2 days later, on Monday, April 3rd, a detective makes contact with Kyla.
So I'm calling to follow up with the report that you came to our department. To start with, if you don't mind, if we could just kind of start from when Carl kind of came out here and you know, what was going on, what led up to him disappearing and all that.
He went back to Denver in May of 2021. And he was just living with friends, kind of bouncing around, living in his car. And then...
So, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. When you say last year, you hadn't heard from him for a long time. What do you think the time frame was on that?
Let's see. Before that, probably 2 weeks.
Okay, so 2 weeks prior to Mother's Day of 2022?
Yeah.
You hadn't heard from him. Would that have been unusual?
It was unusual.
Weeks went by, and Kyla called Carl, who also goes by KJ, repeatedly, but his cell phone went to voicemail. She also reached out to KJ's friends. Alarmingly, no one had seen or heard from him either. In July of 2022, Kyla contacted a different Denver area police department and filed a missing persons report.
So, then what?
But then I complained, and then I have a friend who's from high school who her husband is a private detective that's trying to investigator. So I hired him, And he's just been looking at him. He's the one that found out that Carl had the warrant for his arrest.
According to the warrant, in May of 2022, the same month he went missing, Carl and another man had been caught trying to steal catalytic converters in nearby Fulton, Colorado.
And when I talked to the detective about it, he said that, they picked KJ up and took him to the police department and questioned him. But at that time, they didn't have proof, so they had to let him go. And then I guess a day or so later, they got a video that shows him doing it. It was at a parking lot in North Florida somewhere. And so,
Our mom is Hannah Pingree. She's running for governor, the youngest woman ever elected Speaker of the House. I'm impressed that you know that. She's a lot tougher than she looks. As governor, she's going to stand up to Trump and make Maine better for all
so I kind of thought maybe that's what he was doing because
our
he had a
families.
warrant. And maybe that's why, maybe he was hiding from it.
Still, her intuition told her something was wrong, so Kyla took action. With the help of one of KJ's friends, she created a Facebook page dedicated to finding her son. A few days ago, she finally got a lead. The tipster's username was No Try Again.
She said, I tried to tell you this, that KJ was so good.
Come with me. Marry me.
And so, it freaked out, so I said, how do you know this? Can you tell me more about it? And so then she sent me a long message later in the day saying what her name was.
The tipster identified herself as Sierra. She claimed that several weeks ago, her friend Casey Bach made a shocking confession. KJ had been murdered by her boyfriend, Haskell Leroy Crawford.
At first I thought it was a hoax, but then when she sent me that longer thing, she had a lot of information. A lot of detailed information. I knew that it was not a hoax.
According to Sierra, Casey told her she helped Leroy bury KJ's body under a crawl space in Casey's apartment, and then Leroy covered him with cement. After exchanging more messages, Sierra gave KJ's mother her phone number. So KJ's mother reached out to the police department she contacted back in July of 2022, only to discover the officer she spoke with never actually filed her son's missing persons report.
Okay. Did they give you a reason why?
She didn't know. She apologized and said she didn't know what happened.
Would you be able to copy those messages she sent to you?
Yes, I'll email that to you right now.
Okay, and I will keep you posted, all right?
Okay.
Later that day, Aurora PD detectives speak with Sierra. She swears everything she told KJ's mother is true. Last month, Casey came over to her apartment, high on drugs, and started rambling on about how Leroy had killed KJ, and she helped him with the cleanup. At first, Sierra didn't believe Casey. Then she went online and started looking up information about KJ. When she stumbled upon the Facebook page his mother created, Sierra was horrified to realize that Casey might be telling the truth. Scared to go to the police, she decided to message KJ's mother instead. After speaking with Sierra, investigators do some more digging and make a crucial discovery. When KJ was arrested back in 2022 for stealing catalytic converters, he was arrested alongside none other than Leroy Crawford. That gives detectives a direct link between their alleged victim and his alleged killer. Leroy's also no stranger to violence. In September of 2022, months after KJ went missing, Leroy was arrested and incarcerated in Jefferson County on an unrelated attempted homicide charge. April 4th, 2023. The next day, police head to Casey Bach's apartment with warrants in hand.
I'll explain to you here in just a second. I'm gonna take the backpack off. Grab your stuff here. Is it Casey or is it Cassie? Okay, Casey. So we also have a search warrant for the apartment. Yeah, I understand you have 2 dogs in there. Are they friendly? Okay. What are their names? Okay. So let me just get situated here and then we'll explain more what's going on.
Casey tells police her 2 children also reside in the apartment. After arrangements are made for her mother to pick them up from school, Casey is taken down to the Aurora PD station for questioning.
Got the dog.
With her dogs safely detained, police execute the search warrants and enter Casey's apartment.
We're making it you guys push past the last one, Chris closet.
Inside one of her closets, police find what appears to be a trap door, rigged with locks. When they remove the door, they discover a crawl space underneath. Inside the crawl space, a foul odor fills the air. It's coming from a large, suspicious concrete mound. When police peer through cracks in the mound, they spy what appear to be human remains. Based on what Casey reportedly told Sierra, police believe it's the body of KJ Beeman. However, they won't know for sure until the remains are excavated and the coroner's office makes a positive identification. One thing is for certain. Casey's apartment and the crawl space are now officially a crime scene. Back at the police station, detectives sit down with Casey and confront her with the evidence they've just found.
Now, what I can tell you is we did make it into the crawl space, and we found more or less what we thought we would find. And I understand you were a little upset with some of the things we were saying. But we would like to come back and speak to you and just not be confrontational, nothing like that. We just want to talk to you, okay? But as I mentioned, our other detectives were over there, and they did go into the crawl space we were talking about, and well, that appears to be what we found. Well, that's kind of up to you. That's why we're coming here to talk to you. And we're kind of to that point where obviously we're going to have an ongoing investigation, right? There's a lot of work for us to do. But now is your time. Okay? Now is your time.
I don't.
To say your piece. To try to give us, because you're not going to have. It would be unlikely that you're going to have another opportunity to give us your side of the story.
I don't even know anything about this. How would I have to say my piece with what?
The detective calls her bluff. He tells her a witness came forward to police and repeated what she said Casey had told her, that KJ was murdered and buried in her crawl space.
And Casey, here's the deal. We're trying to be very respectful to you because we don't think that you're the primary person involved in this. We don't. That's why we're being, for lack of a better term, we're being soft. Okay? Because we don't think that you are the person who created this whole mess. Okay? But we do think you know about it, and we do think that maybe you were somehow involved in getting this under here. So this is your opportunity to decide where we're going to go with this.
I don't know anything about this.
Okay? Well, that's the problem. You can't sit and tell me that you don't know anything about it when the whole way when we got here was by you telling somebody that this is what happened.
Yeah, all of that is made up because I didn't say that to anyone.
Well, that's not made up.
What the hell is that?
You tell me. It's under your house.
That looks like 2 pieces of wood, dude.
This, you're right. You are absolutely right. This looks like 2 pieces of wood. What is this?
Do I look like I'm a criminal?
Did we say that? No. We didn't say that, did we?
I'm not.
We never accused you of being a criminal. We haven't made any comments.
I would like my life.
Despite her proclaimed innocence, Casey Bach isn't going anywhere. She's charged with being an accessory to a crime and thrown in jail.
Maine may be a small state, but we face big challenges, and Senator Susan Collins delivers solutions. When our veterans were left out in the cold, Susan Collins secured $3.6 million to help end veteran homelessness. And Collins co-sponsored the bill to protect military spouses' survivor benefits and provide rural veterans access to VA facilities. With her dedication, Susan Collins secures victories time and again for our veterans. Tell Senator Susan Collins to keep championing solutions for Maine's veterans. Easy prep, easy cook, easy clean. Reynolds Wrap.
That looks great. What is that?
Un momento. Dilo otra vez.
I'm curious about what your dish is. I guess I should get some of my own, huh?
Hello, Walt. When surgery becomes part of your journey, you want the best of both worlds. At Maine General, you get the expertise of a big hospital with the heart of a close-knit community. Maine General Medical Center. We're with you.
At approximately 7:44 p.m. that evening, police receive a call from a man identifying himself as Casey's new boyfriend. He says Casey just called him from jail and said she's ready to talk. Detectives meet with her again.
Thanks.
Of course, Jesse.
Thank you. All right, Jesse. Well, we were contacted by your boyfriend, and he told us that you would like to speak to us. I just want to confirm that that is correct, that you would like to speak to us. Okay. Do you understand that before you asked for an attorney, right?
Yeah.
And do you understand that all those rights still apply?
Post-Smokes, divorce rumors are circulating once again for Kamala Harris, and it is not pretty. She's getting hits from every single direction, from her husband to the media, even herself. So yeah, there is a lot stuck. So welcome back to another episode of the Adam C. Moreno Show. Please like, please subscribe, and stop right now. So the drunken mess continues in the form of this. Recently, it was reported that Kamala Harris has moved out of her home with Doug Emhoff, citing that their marriage has been strained. And then this news came out. Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff reportedly living separately after sources claim their marriage is hanging by a thread. Yeah, you heard that right. Go ahead and read this paragraph with me. According to a May 19th report from Radar Online, former Vice President finally purchased a, almost $9 million mansion in Malibu amid claims her marriage is hanging on by a thread. Emhoff is staying at their Brentwood home, while rumors have it that the Malibu home would become the perfect retreat for another presidential campaign. The perfect retreat is that we call a home without your husband. Yeah, this is a red flag, of course, but again, it's not necessarily surprising whenever you think about who both of these people are. Kamala Harris has notably been recognized as someone who was, with Mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown, who was married and also half of her age. This has become kind of like an open secret in San Francisco and all of California. Even Gavin Newsom threw a jab at the failed presidential candidate about this.
And for those that don't know Willie Brown, you wouldn't know Kamala Harris without Willie Brown. Kamala and I both got elected the same.
You wouldn't know Kamala Harris without Willie Brown. And notice his eyebrows there. He's like, if you know what I mean. Yeah, we know exactly what you mean. But again, that's not all, because even Doug Emhoff's previous marriage ended in divorce because he cheated on his wife. So both of these people are just extremely unwell. Even Emhoff addressed this affair to CNN, saying, "During my first marriage, Kristen and I went through some tough times on account of my actions." Emhoff said, "I took responsibility, and in the years since, we worked through things as a family and have come out stronger on the other side." But get this, according to a report, Emhoff got the teacher Naylor pregnant. Apparently, she didn't keep a child. However, there was a mysterious baby girl in social media posts dating back to 2009. So these two are a mess. All right, so no wonder these rumors just continue to stack up. Even in her book, 107 Days, Kamala talked about the, kind of divorce rumors, and guess what? These rumors were not too far from the truth. In her book, she shared that whenever she was about to turn 60 years old, Doug had planned almost nothing for a birthday party. He planned nothing for a restaurant. He completely forgot about it. He even gave her a repurposed gift. And Kamala Harris was so pissed off whenever she accounts this. Just look at this. Harris retreated to the bathroom or the bathtub to decompress, only to realize that the towels were on the other side of the room. When Emhoff was too preoccupied watching a baseball game to hear her calls for assistance, Harris had finally run out of patience, and the two began arguing. They got into a screaming match. Alright, but as Harris recalls, Emhoff was able to stop the fight dead in its track by saying something that really resonated with her. You can't turn on each other. Harris concurred, writing, with the hits coming from every direction, we had to stay united. Yeah, and apparently how he made up for it was he wrote several love notes to Kamala Harris on index cards, which were then individually placed on the then VP's hotel room pillows on the nights they were in different cities. Yeah, so I guess index cards make up for getting a really big birthday. Alright, 60 years old, that is no joke. And yeah, that's the state of their marriage right now. Their marriage is literally a house of cards that is just waiting to collapse. Alright, you could already see the fractures. It is absurd. So no wonder why we're learning that they are apparently not living together anymore. And to make things even worse for Kamala Harris, again, she is still on her book tour, and we just saw her slip up, last week, in another one of her famous, drunken slips. Go ahead and watch this.
I think it's okay for us to be a bit transactional too. And to say, I'm gonna get mine also. And so don't count on me to be a voter and be the backbone of the Democratic Party, because it is my value system and my ethics and my sense of civic duty and responsibility, so that you look at me and say, oh, they're gonna vote.
Man, the way that she's so animated just gets me every single time, and the way that her voice goes in and out of these different variety of different accents, it will just never not be entertaining. Another thing that's kind of entertaining, I actually don't see this often, but some people online are wondering that if all this controversy within Kamala Harris and her marriage, and it's not only because of Doug Emhoff and his kind of shadiness in that department, but some people are also wondering if it's Kamala Harris who has possibly had an affair. This person says, just saying, would that surprise anybody if Kamala Harris had an affair? And they attached this video with Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. And, I'm not one for a lot of rumors, but I do think that the way that these two talk to each other, look at each other, I think is very, very interesting. So you're gonna watch this. Yeah, so there's no audio, but just look at their body language, look at that posture. And these guys talk to each other a lot. Look at this. Very quick to tell them something. Look at that kind of side smile. Alright. And again, they're just dying to talk to each other again and again. Look at that. Do you see these eyes here? I've never seen Kamala Harris that happy. It's just so, no. It's kind of confusing. If my wife were to look at another man like this, it's just, no, I'm sorry, red flag. Alright? There's just no way. I don't like it. Alright, I don't like it, and I'm sure Doug doesn't like it either. So, who knows? Marriage on the rocks? I'm not sure, but according to this information, quite definitely. So, to summarize, her marriage is hanging on for its dear life. She's moved out of the house. Gavin Newsom is also taking some ruthless shots at her past, so I'm kind of excited for a 2028 primary, because I think these guys are I think all the shots are gonna come out between Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, and it is just gonna be good TV. And again, her response to all of this is just a book tour with a bunch of drunken slips. So, yeah, no wonder continues to collapse in the prediction markets. I mean, look at this. She used to be in the 60s, and now she's like dead last at 9%. I believe even AOC has just passed her. This might be a little bit outdated, but AOC is blown past her as well. So it's just absurd. All right. As always, go let me know anything about all this in the comment section. Should we have known that these guys were doomed, or is this just the Kamala Harris effect? Yeah. You go ahead and tell me. And hey, if you made it this far, please like, please subscribe, and see you guys soon.
Capability inside.
This weekend, while the corporate media chases distractions, 5 huge stories are breaking that directly impact you, President Trump, and the future of our country. Republicans just proved they do have the votes to pass major parts of Trump's agenda if the filibuster falls, after a second round of Save America Act vote flipped Senator Susan Collins into the yes column. At the same time, a left-wing judge just kneecapped one of Trump's toughest immigration safeguards. And out in California, mysterious ballot dumps are threatening to erase Spencer Pratt's lead in the LA mayor's race. Add in blue state Democrats pulling police away from an ICE facility as anti-mob swarm and quiet news moves overseas that could reshape the global map. It's all a pattern that I'm going to break down for you as Trump fights the swamp on your behalf. Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. Let's jump right in. Yesterday, I told you how 4 Republicans stabbed voters in the back on the Save America Act vote. Well, a second vote happened today, and after speaking with Senator Mike Lee of Utah, Senator Collins of Maine just flipped to the yes column. Now, this means that we have the 50 votes. You add in the authority of Vice President J.D. Vance, and we cross the 51 vote mark. Now, this particular type of vote for the Save America Act for voter ID does need 60 votes. However, and I've been very hard on John Thune, he did vote for this act and he is bringing it to the floor finally, but they would have to drop the filibuster in order for the 51 to actually matter. Now, this story is still developing, but it's really great news this weekend, and I wanted to step away from family to bring it to you. All right, now in some bad news for President Trump and you and me, a left-leaning federal judge in Boston just took a sledgehammer to one of President Trump's tougher immigration policies, and it's bad news for both Trump and the American taxpayer. Judge John McConnell Jr. struck down a U.S. CIS policy that paused green cards, citizenship, work permits, and some asylum decisions for people from 39 high-risk countries after an Afghan national was arrested for shooting 2 National Guard troopers in Washington, D.C. Instead of treating that as common sense security, the judge blasted the policy as arbitrary, contrary to American law, and driven by anti-immigrant sentiment pushed forward by Donald Trump, parroting the same talking points you hear from the corporate media every single night. Now, this is a pattern. President Trump looks at hard data showing certain countries send disproportionate numbers of welfare-dependent migrants, fraud cases, and national security risks, and tries to tighten standards so American workers and taxpayers aren't on the hook for those who come from these shaky nations. The left instantly screams, racist, xenophobe, and runs to a friendly judge to reopen the pipeline of immigrants from third world nations. No one is saying people can't come to America. They can come legally, They can come to work, they can obey our laws and support themselves, not be supported financially by you and me. What Trump is pushing back on is a system where a bleeding heart liberal judge decides that foreigners from almost 30 countries have a right to fast-track decisions and government benefits, even when they are serious security threats to you and me. That's not compassion, that's anti-American policy dressed up in moral language. And once again, it shows how activist judges are being used by the Democrat Party to undermine Trump's attempt to put American citizens and American taxpayers first. Now, concerns about the Los Angeles mayor's race are exploding on the internet as fresh dropped ballots keep slicing in to Spencer Pratt, the Republicans' lead, and boosting far-left city councilwoman Nithya Raman. Under California's vote-by-mail system, LA County has up to 35 days to count every ballot, even the postmarked ones from Election Day, which means election night is not election night, it's election month with 35 days. Now we're seeing exactly what so many of you and I, conservatives, have feared. Huge late batches of ballots coming in that lean heavily towards one candidate, Nithya Raman, while barely moving the number for Pratt or even for Karen Bass. Something isn't adding up. How does a large batch come in and a huge portion of it is just for one candidate? It doesn't make any sense. One batch of roughly 60,000 mail-in ballots gave Raman over 23,000 new votes, and Pratt 11,000, shrinking his margin by a huge amount. Now, out in California, the top two people go forward. So they're not trying to get rid of Karen Bass. All of these late night drops are all eating in to Spencer Pratt, the Republican. Now, meanwhile, Karen Bass, who is already locked in her first place, continues to gain. But the critical drama is for second place, where Raman must pass Pratt to knock him off the ballot in the November runoff. That raises an obvious question. If late ballots in deep blue LA are just more Democrats, why aren't they boosting Bass? Instead, they're disproportionately hurting Pratt and only helping one of the Democrats. Do you hear what I'm saying? You've got three people, yet the majority of votes are going to just one person, the person needed to knock Spencer Pratt out of second place, and the votes aren't really going to make Karen Bass's lead much bigger. Now, NBC News' own election coverage casually admitted that late mail-in ballots in California almost always break heavily for Democrats and have flipped races for many election cycles. For many voters, that's the exact problem. When it takes weeks or even a month, when key races are decided not by same-day voting, but late ballot dumping, that mysterious leaning one way really becomes suspicious. And when a high-profile outsider like Republican Pratt can get 0 votes in a reported update, people stop trusting the process. The fact that federal prosecutors and the FBI are now reportedly looking into multiple election fraud investigations and auditing voter rolls only fuels the sense that something bad is happening in California, and it's happening in broad daylight. All right, while you and I were sleeping, fresh Iranian attacks and Trump's response are pushing the U.S.-Iran standoff right to the edge. Overnight, U.S. forces shot down at least 4 Iranian attack drones heading toward the Strait of Hormuz, which CENTCOM said posed an imminent threat to commercial shipping. Hours later, Iran launched a salvo of ballistic missiles into Kuwait and Bahrain as punishment for associating with United States military. 6 were intercepted and another failed, while the U.S. hit Iranian coastal radar sites in Gorak and on Keshem Island in response. All of this is happening under what is supposed to be a ceasefire, which Tehran now accuses Washington, D.C. of violating with each retaliatory strike, even as Iran continues firing drones and missiles at U.S. bases and U.S. allies. I like how Tehran says that Trump and the U.S. military broke the ceasefire by responding to their attack where they broke the ceasefire. Unbelievable, right? All right, now we're nearly 100 days into Trump's Epic Fury campaign, and what was sold as a short, sharp conflict has settled into a grinding nightly exchange. Trump has admitted Iran still retains roughly a fifth of its missile arsenal, but insists U.S. pressure is working and that Iran is in no position to get a nuclear weapon. The biggest question over the last 48 hours is whether he holds the ceasefire and the blockade line, continuing to intercept attacks and strike radar sites, or whether mounting provocations from Iran and growing pressure from war hawks here at home push him to launch a large-scale escalation of taking out bridges, electrical plants, and so on. All right, now this shocked me. President Volodymyr Zelensky just made a move almost no one saw coming. He publicly proposed a direct face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin of Russia and offered a full ceasefire for the duration of the talks. In a lengthy, open letter, Zelensky tells Putin, enough of the war, says Ukraine is ready to end the conflict, honestly, with dignity, and with guarantees that it won't restart. He argues that Russia is paying an ever higher price on casualties, sanctions, and internal fatigue, while Ukraine has surprised the world by holding out, striking deep into Russian territory with drones and keeping international support. Zelensky wants negotiations hosted in a neutral country like Switzerland, Turkey, or an Arab nation, with Europe and the United States involved as security guarantors. He frames talks as urgent partly because Washington is now focused on Iran, and he doesn't want Ukraine to slip off the global agenda. At the same time, he makes clear Ukraine will keep fighting hard if Putin refuses, promising to increase pressure until Russia is tired enough to seek peace. For now, the Kremlin is signaling it's prepared to let the war drag on, saying there's no need for a ceasefire unless a deal is already close. So whether this bold diplomatic letter, this gambit, gets any traction, I'll have to let you know. But I wanted to come on this weekend and let you know what's going on with both of these wars, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what's happening in Washington, D.C. All right. Good news on the Save America Act. This is a huge step forward. We haven't closed the deal yet, but part of negotiation is moving the ball down the football down the field, right? And that's exactly what happened. All right, I love you guys. Stay amazing, and I will see you on the next video.
Do you know who Jared Kushner really is? Do you know who Jared Kushner really is? People are calling him the new Jeffrey Epstein for a reason. Now, there's a lot about Jared Kushner you probably don't know and that he doesn't want you to know. But we're going to spill the beans tonight. Here's just a quick preview rundown of his resume. He's currently making waves for the new private island he wants to develop in Albania that has Albania revolting. And a fraud investigation opened up on him. Kushner also has a major role in the Trump administration. On behalf of the U.S. government, he negotiates with the Middle East governments that his firm also takes major investments from. Kushner has also been the central negotiator in the Iran war and ceasefires and peace deals, which it all follows through because he's a good negotiator. He's got Epstein connections, and if you love what the government of Israel is doing, then you can thank Jared Kushner for it because he's helping them do more than anybody else. And Kushner's father committed what the former U.S. Attorney for New Jersey called one of the most loathsome, disgusting crimes he had ever handled. Jared Kushner currently shapes foreign policy in the Middle East more than anybody else.
even more than President Trump. So while Jared Kushner might not want you to know much about him, probably because he's just humble, I thought tonight we'll help you get to know him better, much better, in our special Meet Jared Kushner report, starting with his very popular Private Island project. Kushner's wife, Ivanka, who happens to be President Trump's daughter, recently let the cat out of the bag on a private island that her and Kushner bought in the Mediterranean. And they're going to be developing it. But before we get to what you're not supposed to know about the island, there's a lot. You have to appreciate how in touch with the little people of the world that Ivanka is. Hey, I think everybody wants us elites to have another one of those private island things. I know. I'll probably announce it so everyone can be happy about it. Great. Here's what Kushner and his super in tune wife didn't tell you. They discovered the island while on board Nat Rothschild's yacht. Yep, same Rothschilds who had Epstein as their main guy. Look at this email. And the Albanian island has 3,600 Cold War nuclear bunkers and miles of underground tunnels. They must have had the same architect as Epstein Island. But after it was discovered, the deal for the island was also brokered with the Albanian Prime Minister on board the Rothschilds' yacht yet again, and financed by Middle East money. Moving this along, once Ivana proudly announced the elite island plan, the people of Albania revolted and protest. They don't like it. You see, these little people, they were concerned because the island is protected in the Adriatic Coastal Reserve. It's like a wetland. And the Albanian government quietly changed the protection so the deal could happen. But the peasants didn't like that once they found out. And most unfortunate for Kushner, a corruption investigation has been opened on him and this deal. They're looking into the property fraud and fraudulent titles connected to the deal. In the meantime, Special Prosecution Office Against Corruption and Organized Crime have freezed Kushner's dirty assets in the $4 billion resort fraud investigation. They hit a little red tape. Happens to the good guys all the time. Now this is all child's play when you hear about the criminal achievements of Kushner's father. But may I remind you, this is all happening while Jared Kushner is currently working in a major role on behalf of the Trump administration for the American people. Let's hear more on that, shall we? Now, Kushner's role in the Trump administration is to control Trump, or special envoy of peace is what Trump likes to call Kushner's role. During his role in the Trump administration, Kushner has demonstrated his service to the American people by becoming a billionaire while Trump's in office. He's just a dedicated public servant. How does he serve the American people that well, you might ask? Well, Kushner is in charge of policy in the Middle East, so he negotiates with those Middle East governments. While privately, Kushner operates his own investment firm, Affinity Partners, and his firm takes private investment money from those same governments. So in other words, he's receiving money from the Middle East governments that he's negotiating with. This just in! We'll get to what he's doing with Israel. Trust me, it's pretty so stay tuned, but first, back to what I was talking about. Now, skeptics say that what Kushner is doing is exactly how bribes work. The other party gives you money, so you give them what they want in return. And while it's true that bribes work that way, it's also true that's how investing works. For example, the Saudi Crown Prince gave Kushner $2 billion of money, not as a bribe to shape U.S. foreign policy the way the Saudis want it, but as an investment to get a return on his investment. That's the purpose of investing. Well, the only problem for Kushner is that those Middle East people don't get a return on their money. They just lose money. Here's what the House Oversight Report on Kushner said. We estimate that under the terms of Mr. Kushner's arrangement with foreign investors, Affinity collected more than $60 million in fees from foreign investors in 2025, including $39 million from the Saudi government. This year, Mr. Kushner will continue to collect the same amount or more. We estimate that since 2021, Mr. Kushner has collected more than $110 million from the government of Saudi Arabia for investment management services that have reaped little to no return. So just to be clear, it's not bribery or money laundering. It's fees that Kushner is receiving because the Saudi prince likes to invest money where he'll just lose money. It's a crown prince kind of thing you just won't understand. But in fact, the Saudi's investment advisors told him not to invest with Kushner due to excessive fees, his inexperience, the deal being riddled with PR risks, and Kushner's team being quote-unquote unsatisfactory in all aspects. But the Saudi prince is doing the investment anyway because he sees something in Kushner. Moving along, are there conflicts of interest with Kushner? Now, amateurs say that Kushner is obviously in a role with conflicts of interest. He's representing U.S. foreign policy with Middle East governments that he's seeking investment from privately. So critics say that a person in Kushner's government position should divest from their private interests to eliminate conflict. And that's exactly what Kushner announced he would do in 2024, that he would not be seeking any more foreign investment for his firm in order to eliminate conflicts of interest. He did the right thing. And since that announcement was made, he's been looking to raise $5 billion of foreign capital. The House Oversight Report put it this way. Mr. Kushner has not only failed to divest from his foreign business dealings, but he is expanding them during President Trump's second term. It appears that while Mr. Kushner is representing the U.S. government in negotiations in the Middle East, he is simultaneously seeking to raise at least $5 billion in additional foreign capital for his private equity firm, Affinity Partners. Hey, it's just those damn Democrats, right? Can't stand him. The guy is just dedicated to serving the American people while emulating what he learned from his greatest role model, his father. So let's learn about him. Jared Kushner's father was an interesting guy.
Designed to keep kids comfy and dry overnight, night pants fit like underwear. Our extra stretchy waistband provides a slim, contoured fit, and our fast dry layer absorbs liquid in seconds. Sleep easy and stay dry with Night Pant.
Start investing with Acorns. Your first month is free. Start today.
The Beyond the Gates Young and the Restless crossover event.
It will be an unforgettable evening.
This room is full of reporters who are itching for a scandal.
Oh, howdy, partner.
How the hell did he get in here?
Barrington County is now under a tornado watch.
You just may have saved my life. Promise you that I won't be naughty tonight.
The Beyond the Gates Young and the Restless crossover event. Turn us on anytime on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Senator Susan Collins delivers from Maine, bringing $190 million for rural hospitals and health centers. And Senator Collins co-sponsored the Halt Fentanyl Act, cracking down on drug traffickers, keeping Mainers safe. Susan Collins also voted for National Voter ID, protecting our elections from fraud. Senator Susan Collins, delivering on rural health care, delivering tougher penalties on drug traffickers, delivering on securing our elections, delivering results for Maine.
Put it that way. As a career, Kushner's father spent some time as a real estate developer and also spent some time in prison for corruption. In 2004, he pleaded guilty to 18 counts, including multiple counts of assisting and filing false tax returns, illegal campaign contributions, making false statements to the Federal Election Commission, and lastly, and this was my favorite, one count of retaliating against a cooperating witness. Witness tampering. Let's hear more about the values Jared's father instilled in him with this one. Now, you see, Father Kushner's sister and brother-in-law were cooperating with the authorities that were working a case against him. So what he did was hire a prostitute to seduce his brother-in-law, and in a New Jersey motel room, he had hidden cameras that recorded the whole thing, much like Epstein did. He then sent the recordings to his sister to intimidate her and the brother-in-law into no longer cooperating with authorities. blackmail, much like Epstein did. No, anyway, the blackmail didn't work. They collaborated with authorities, and Father Kushner got an additional charge of witness tampering and went to prison. But we do have a happy ending, ladies and gentlemen, because then Trump pardoned Father Kushner in 2020, and he now serves in the Trump administration as the U.S. ambassador to France. But the point is, this is the guy that raised Jared Kushner and instilled good values in him. Hey, I still can't believe that people think he's taking bribes from foreign governments and laundering that money through his investment firm. Yeah, the same firm that had its account frozen by the Albanian Organized Crime Division while they investigate him for fraud. Yeah, can you believe people think that about Kushner? Idiots. Anyway, Kushner, good guy, raised by a good man who instilled good values in him, and he currently works rather closely with a country that has really good values, Israel. Israel has become the most hated country in the world at 97.55%. According to global polls. But nobody loves Israel quite like Kushner does. And nobody helps Israel do what they do quite like Kushner. Let's learn more. Wow. He's had a long-standing personal relationship with Netanyahu, who stayed at Kushner's properties on multiple occasions. In 2017, during Trump's first term, Kushner brokered the Abraham Accords, which do nothing but support Israel in their expansionist agenda in the region. Well, Palestine is completely disregarded. And on that note, Kushner recently said that he wants to bring wealth, status, and power only to the countries that join the Abraham Accords, aka countries that pledge not to interfere with the Greater Israel Project. Dude, that is really supportive for Israel. That's what God wants. Kushner serving God. Kushner has talked about how he wants to turn Gaza into a profitable redevelopment zone. And his partner Israel's already did phase 1 of the project for him, the demolition. And through affinity partners, Kushner invests in Israeli companies. With his Zionist views, he believes Israel deserves unconditional support. 97.55% of the world happens to disagree. Oh, and there's this thing called the Iran War, where Kushner has been serving the Israeli interests rather well. You see, he's been a central part of all the ceasefire and peace deal negotiations
This
in the
is
war.
just
And
he's a
there's
comedian.
been a lot of them, because none of them have worked. So they do a lot. It just so happens that an ongoing war is what Israel wants. And that's what Kushner's negotiations have achieved. Oh, and another super small but
JP
fun fact about
Rass,
Kushner's
JP.
enmeshment with Israel. Remember that private island resort with 3,600 underground bunkers and how that deal was brokered on the Rothschilds yacht? Well, it's the same Rothschild family that financially backed the spread of Zionism in the late 19th century, helped establish the vision and implementation of Israel as a country, beginning in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration and the early capital, organizational backbone, land purchases, displacement of indigenous Palestinians, and the diplomatic door openers that made the Zionist project of Israel as a nation state come to fruition in 1948, aka that's what God wanted. So Kushner being intertwined with the Rothschilds is a significant tie to Israel. But more specifically, the Zionist agenda that runs Israel, and actually has nothing to do with Judaism. They'll tell you different, but it's Zionism. Hey, speaking of Israel, but does Kushner have Epstein connections? Well, can you dive into the pool and not get wet? Israel is the pool in this analogy, and Epstein is the wetness. Just for funsies, let's explore the Epstein connections. In 2013, Kushner invited Epstein, who at the time was a convicted and known sex offender, to his gala at the Four Seasons. And this was revealed by emails released by the House Oversight Committee in late 2025. Another Epstein connection, you know, the Albanian island? Well, that was brokered on the Rothschild yacht, as you probably remember. And that's the same Rothschilds that Epstein, quote-unquote, represented. Same Rothschilds behind Zionism. Oh, Epstein had an island too. Huh. Oh, and also, Kushner married the daughter of the man who's done more to protect Epstein criminals than anyone else, Donald Trump, which, like it or not, is an indirect yet very real Epstein class connection. So, In conclusion to all this, while critics of Kushner will call treason corruption and accuse him of being soulless, yet if you look at a picture of Kushner, you'll see he doesn't look like a soulless guy at all. Not even a little bit. So is Kushner the new Epstein? No, not at all. Epstein operated in the shadows. Kushner is doing it out in the open. So it's not the same thing at all. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this opportunity to really get to know Jared Kushner. What he's about, what he's done. He is very unelected and very much shaping the world for you and your children to live in. So we thought you might like to get to know him better.
No, I don't know. Awesome.
Good night. Hey, call Jared for me. I want to know if he still has room on the cap table. I want in on that island investment. Sounds pretty cool. I don't know about you, but I'm...
As a family farm, when prices go up the way they are, it crushes you. It started with the tariffs. Everything just is up, up, up. And now Susan Collins voted to support Trump's war in Iran. Gas prices and diesel prices have gone up through the roof. It costs us twice as much now every time we use the tractor. Tell Susan Collins to stop Trump's war. We can't afford it.
So
He's gonna cut both of us?
he's sexy. You want to press charges on him? And he has a machete inside the house.
He does.
Is he still there?
Yes, and now he's breaking patient brains. He's working
We're gonna go
overtime.
over there.
I have it all recorded.
If he runs in the house, you give us permission to go
Oh,
in there.
go for it.
Okay. He's at the door. I'm in contact. Come out here. Come here. Come here. Yeah. Open the door. Open the door. Open the door. See if the front's unlocked. Come here.
She's sending me to jail.
Come here.
Hey, what are you doing?
Put your hands behind your back.
What did I do? Why am I being detained? What did... Mom, she's having me arrested for disorderly conduct. Make sure you contact the lawyer, the officer that stands up with me.
Let's go over here to the squad.
Grab my
You got
phone,
anything
please.
on you? Anything that's gonna stick or focus?
No, sir.
Any drugs?
No, there might be marijuana.
I ain't worried about a little marijuana. You got a TV remote in your pocket.
I was listening to you. I'm telling you this, I'm coming for y'all job.
You got it?
I get about 26,000.
It's all coming for your job. So, how is it disorderly conduct?
Nope, you're just being charged with disorderly conduct. I'm not gonna get into it over here.
Explain myself.
I actually don't have to.
So, I am what I am in charge with.
From towns where the closest hospital is hours away. From workers who pay more in taxes than
I'll get that hair going
millionaires.
for it.
Loggers who've endured for
Appreciate it,
generations
guys.
only for tariffs to make things harder.
What?
Young people who want to own a home.
Disorderly
to call their
conduct, class A misdemeanor.
Seniors ready
That'll
to
be on
demand
the
the
case
dignity
report.
they
Do a
deserve.
FOIA for it.
The suspect will be released from jail in a few hours, where a chaotic night will only just be getting
Store by
started.
store, hospital by hospital,
Shore by shore.
They took so much, they began to think we didn't even exist at all.
But they don't know man. They don't know the power that we have. We are taking back what is ours. I'm Graham Platter, and I approve this message.
Violence, hatred. You changed the lock? Racial. So he has no way to get in.
Sexual.
How do you know he's on his way?
Gender-based, whatever, unleashed across the whole country.
Okay.
All its bloodshed and tragedy. How and why civil war happened. Now, that could be taken out of time.
You want me to stand
Talk
by
about it in relation to the past, the distant past, the recent past,
Okay.
present, future. Civil war is, well, if history's anything to go by, civil war's inevitable. Some people say that many Western countries are heading in the direction of civil war now.
He was
And who am I to
but they
gainsay
allowed
that?
him to.
But just before I kick off this week's episode, here's a quick note, as always. I would apologise, but hey, what's the point? Because I need to do this. Let me tell you how to support the podcast. Check out my patreon.com site. Sign up if you can. The price of a cup of coffee once a month. It keeps the podcast going. Without it, we fall over. With you, we stand up. As a member, you get exclusive access, question and answer session, and other stuff. There's advanced copies of all my content, a huge back catalogue. I've been at this for years now. There's tons of history, comment, all the rest of it. The details are down there below the video, and you can also find them on my website, neiloliver.com. Another way we get support is from our wonderful, ever-present sponsor, Gold Bullion Partners. They are about holding, owning real gold and silver. If you're thinking about doing that, these are the guys to talk to. One thing they say is, quote, buying gold and silver is about wealth preservation, safety and control, not speculation. So, if gold and silver is the market you want to be in amongst, if you want to talk to someone, you want to have a conversation with a real human being before you commit either way, then Gold Bullion Partners are the people to talk to. Their link is down there below the video. Okay, time to watch out for stray bullets as we strap into the timesheet, head towards America. Cue the music. Just 85 years after the Declaration of Independence, the United States began tearing itself apart.
They were within your legal rights.
The Battle of Antietam on the 17th of September 1866 is perhaps the bloodiest day in all of American history.
I'm sick of this crap.
22,654 Americans left
Do you understand?
dead or dying.
Okay. Now you're
As
going
the
to
Civil War ends, 2% of the entire American population
You're allowed to do that. All right?
after families, friends, and neighbours found themselves
Do
facing
you have any
each other
weapons?
in a
Where's the
true
machete at? I'm not asking you to go get it. I'm asking you where it's at.
endeavouring to understand history in hopes of illuminating
have
the
this.
future.
You
I'm Neil Oliver, and this is my love letter to the world.
You have this thing going on where you think that you can tell me how to do my job, all right? You can't.
Sometimes being sort of like that with someone in that kind of situation will prevent them from escalating. You know what I mean? It actually does. It prevents. Could put them in place from escalating.
Travellers, yes. Last week we witnessed the collaboration between Marx and Engels as they planted a bomb beneath the emerging industrial
As
revolution,
far as just
their
being
communist
very
manifesto,
stern and
so-called.
strict, like right away
This week, though,
with
it's 1861. We're crossing the Atlantic as the newly formed United States of America. We're meeting Major Sullivan as he marches towards his enemy in the first battle. This is the love letter to the world, and this one really is a love letter. This love letter is about a love letter. It actually does what it says on it. But before we get to that, I think a lot about war now.
The television.
You know, there's war all over the place. 30 or 40 wars, even as we speak. Conflicts of one sort or another. Obviously, in the West we're invited to look at Ukraine, although not as much as before. War in the Middle East, bloodshed in the Middle East.
Come over here.
And I think it's possibly an age thing. But I think about war, and I think about all war. I think about the wars of the past, the wars of the present, presumably the wars of the future. I've written in the past about heroism. I've written about men in combat. Feeling that I've got quite carried away about it. But when I think and write about war, it comes from a place of, well, curiosity about how I would be if it happened to me. I read about and write about last stands and when men find themselves at the end and have to react one way or another. And I've wondered what it would be like for me. Like stress. I have no appetite to actually find it. But I do wonder. And when I said it's a big part of an age thing, you know, I've got teenage sons now. I've got a 20-year-old daughter as well. But particularly pertinent when I think about war. I look at my son's
Because
faces.
he doesn't want to leave because his belongings are in here and he's fear that they'll be sold.
Especially madness like in America, there are rumours and rumblings about a draft because of war in the Middle East. America doesn't have enough fighting soldiers to go to war anyway, realistically, without a draft, without calling up its civilian sons.
Can't make him leave. He's refusing to leave. He won't go home with mom because all of his belongings are in here. So I already told her that. That's why she's yelling. But now I'm gonna let him know. All right, man. Well, as of now, you can go in the house. But hey, listen, from man to a man, all right? Please let me finish.
For moderate to severe hot flashes due to menopause.
I want you to keep to yourself. If anything escalates, if he comes in there and starts yelling at you, exit the house.
So enjoy the sun of
Actually, you know what? The best thing you can do is just call the emergency number.
Don't use liquid if you're
Okay,
pregnant,
well,
as
you
it
do that
can cause
until
low
you're...
pregnancy. Tell your doctor if you have liver problems,
Well,
history
if
of
you
seizures,
feel that
are
it's
pregnant
within
or
those
planning to
means
become
that if it's an
pregnant. It
emergency,
can cause
then you
serious
use
side effects
911.
like central nervous system effects and daytime impairment, like difficulty staying awake, fatigue, feeling, dizziness, or pain. Don't drive or do hazardous activities until they pass. Increased liver blood test values may occur. Your doctor will check them before and during treatment. There's a risk of seizures in people with a history of seizures. Seek medical help for loss of consciousness or seizures. Most common side effects include headache,
I've already spoke with her. She's already told me to
These
exit
aren't
the
all the
house, so I
possible
can't
side
go
effects.
anymore.
Our lives don't stop for hot flashes. Still let hot
And
flashes
he's on the lease, so I have to go
hot
by with
flashes?
police holders.
Why sweat it?
That's fine.
Think about
I'm
it.
going in.
Ask your provider about Linqued.
Okay. Love you, mother.
But you guys aren't gonna do it. Come on now. He's threatened how many people?
He was arrested for it. It's not on us.
99% of the country just doesn't know.
You give me permission to go in there and speak.
I choose to help
He's probably throwing all this stuff inside. I don't care.
get the opportunity to stand for something greater than myself. Military lifestyle is still so
Dude, I'm gonna have some. Just wait.
people as we can. All hands on deck. Make sure that we're taking care of these folks.
I do. And we all need to leave.
Tell her that room is mine.
Messages of him.
She in the shower
As I
right
get
now?
older, I wonder more about why war happens and why it keeps happening. When I was younger and I'm maybe more naive, I thought it was, baddies would rise up and goodies would rise to turn them back.
She took a shower.
I saw it in a black and white way for a long
This happened on
time.
purpose.
But now, recently, I have arrived at the conclusion that war happens because it suits
I know. She's in the shower now. She's not gonna.
to have the world that way,
Get out. Just to
because
give her a couple
war
minutes.
is the
Let her get
ultimate
out. When
means
she's
of
out, do
pursuing
your thing.
wealth
Say
and
something
power.
Okay, I'd like you over here for my.
That's why war happens.
So I can see if anything's
It's
changed.
not about goodies
You
and
can go ahead and go
baddies.
through it. You have my contact number. If anything
There are
changes,
many
just give me a
true
call. But
things.
we're leaving.
Many countless
These deputies have
things
that more
written
important
about
things to
said
deal
about
with.
war. One is that only the dead have seen the last of it, which is true. And it's also true, bitterly true, to say that war is declared by old men who know each other,
I found my weed. I
and
turned it
then
down.
fought by young men and boys who don't know each other and never will.
Can we not do that anymore?
And when it's all
I'm
over,
tired of being out here
men
tonight.
who declare war on each other still know each other. And so it goes on.
It was shaking
But as I
my
say,
heart, so I'm
the
trying
love
to-
letter to the world this week is actually about a love letter.
Just let the kids get some
Really,
sleep.
I would say,
You know what? I'm gonna do it for you.
For the cute
subjectively,
piece for the
one
night.
of the
You'll
finest
see the last time I come out here.
love
Get some
letters
sleep.
ever written
How about it? I mean,
by man or woman.
don't leave me hanging,
It's written by a
brother.
soldier to his wife.
Do your best.
She's
Love letters are all but gone
Alright,
from
good
the
for me.
world now. I mean, I'm old enough to remember
What are you doing?
in movies and so on, you see depictions of people,
I'm not going
of
over.
old people,
I think that's
through
gonna be
a
alright.
shoebox under the
That's
bed
good
and
enough
finding a
volume.
bundle of envelopes tied up with a bow. And it was the correspondence that they had
Joe
had from
Baldacci, the hand-picked
their
yes
loved
man
one,
of
from
Dark
their
Money DC.
fiancée
He's
or whatever,
bankrolled by
and they
DC,
kept them for
and
all time.
beholden to them, not
That's
us.
gone now.
The truth,
I don't
Joe
imagine
Baldacci
there are
is the
many
only
people,
Democrat
young
running for
people now,
Congress who
building up
stands
bundles
with
of
Trump and opposes
letters
implementing
that they've
Medicare for all
received from
Mainers now.
their other half.
Good for the establishment, bad for Mainers. Reject dark money and corporate
The
Democrats.
writing of letters,
Vote no
never
on
mind
DC's
love letters.
hand-picked yes man,
It's
Joe
more demanding
Baldacci.
of
Your
time,
change back is
I
responsible
think,
for the
than
content
most
of this
people are
advertising.
prepared to give.
Made with
When
real
you've got
ice
the
tea,
instantaneous
vodka.
gratification of
Let the good
texts,
times
emails that you can send and receive in real
Get
time.
the same trusted
To send a
life
letter
disinfection
is to
that has a
commit
scent
something to
that'll
the
make
future.
you move.
Send it
Extra
off.
Leslie Kill, 99.9% assurance.
I'll go
Lysol
both.
Rain J Lavender.
You get a
It'll
reply.
be a scent you'll
That's
love.
a delayed gratification that I don't think many people
One decision that I'm most proud
entertain anymore.
of is definitely signing on to go back to
because we've
school,
got
fulfilling a dream I
instantaneous
didn't realize I had. You can
and so
do this. It
the
doesn't matter
writing
what
of love
is happening
letters,
in your life. This
I
is
think for the
doable.
most part belongs to the world of before. You know, love letters are part of history. The writing of love letters, it's a way now. The love letter in question today, it was written by a man named Sullivan Ballou. Sullivan Ballou. Now, if that's not a name to conjure with, I don't know what one might be. Sullivan Ballou. It's redolent of romance.
Can you have Crystal come out here and see if there's any damage to it?
You get
There goes again. He's shooting it out the window with me.
Sullivan Ballou was a major,
Put the BB gun down.
a high-ranking
You're shooting
officer
with a BB gun,
in the
apparently.
2nd Rhode Island Infantry
That's what I'm
Regiment
told.
that fought
BB
for
guns,
the
the rocks
Union,
at it?
that being
It's
the
a car.
North, at the first battle of Bull Run, which was the first major clash
I don't
of
see
the
anybody in the
American
window.
Civil War.
Here! He's right here!
Well, that's the kid that you're scared.
The stage is set, the ingredients are all there. A man named
You're not on the
Sullivan
lease. I'm investigating something that the leaseholder is
2nd Rhode Island Infantry Regiment.
Okay.
And that's before you even get an insight into how he thought and what he thought. Surely it's fair to say that a civil
Did you see the
war
BB gun, Crystal?
amongst all genres of war, it must be amongst the worst
In the garage?
that a society or a people might inflict upon itself, upon themselves. Because as we know, as we have learned,
You're going to arrest her for a false accusation.
You're not going to tell me I do my job, Dylan. We've been through
civil
this.
wars split everything. It's the sharpest blade, like a razor, it can get anywhere. It splits everything, so civil wars fracture families. They set brother against brother, father against
So why
son.
does the car alarm keep going?
Ask her.
That which has been joined together can be separated by civil war
Get your finger out.
more effectively and efficiently than any other sharp edge, I would contend. America's civil war, if it was handled, there was civil wars everywhere. America's civil war lasted from 1861 to 1865.
You want the report
And
number?
it harvested
Cool.
somewhere between 620,000 and 850,000.
Actually, you're not on the
Now,
list.
when it comes to tally, there's always a higher and a lower number.
So actually,
Depends
you
how
cannot
you do the
because I'm
sums.
investigating.
But let's say it might be more pertinent or
harass me, I'm doing my
effective to
job.
say that
No,
the
I'm not.
death toll of the American Civil War accounted for
I know, man.
2% of the population of the United States at that time. 2%. So
Well, you said you
200
respected me like 30 minutes ago, so.
If the American Civil War was to happen tomorrow, and it harvested the same proportion
Has he done anything that
of
makes you guys
today's
so alarmed and
United States
disturbed again?
population of whatever it is, 340 million, something of that order,
We're over
you're
here
talking
because
about
the car
6
alarm,
million
man.
dead men and boys.
Just told me.
And the bloodiest day in the whole of the American Civil War was the Battle of Antietam, one of many battles.
Been recording the whole time.
It was on the 17th
Every
of
time
September
spoke to you.
1862.
What's my badge number?
So in the first half of the war,
See if she can come up and talk to me.
and when the fighting
You want me
stopped,
to say, I
that
apologize
day,
about
the
the
casualty
call
list
but it
for
didn't
Antietam
come off on this
Hey,
record.
you don't know what I'm talking about or something? Are you feeling alarmed and disturbed on his
654
behavior again?
Yes, I do. My son is still awake. He's blaring music.
Hotels.com is where you go to choose from hundreds
And
of
he's
thousands of
talking down
hotels
to you.
and earn
Like,
rewards on
seriously,
every
this
stay.
is what we deal with
That's
when
exactly
you're
what it
gone.
sounds like.
This is what we deal with.
Unlike
Like,
cat,
are you tired of
it's
it?
not what it sounds like.
Are you?
Hotels.com. It's all
I'm
in it.
speaking with the leaseholder right now.
There is a lot about the job
Aren't you
is
tired?
actually
I'm
that
tired
fun
of I have
that
to
I
work
have now
until
automated away
after
almost entirely. One of them is Sentry. It's kind of a different type of automation
He was placed under arrest for
where it's
disorderly
going to go
conduct,
through
right?
on whatever schedule, whatever cadence.
After he
It
was
picks
placed
off
under
one of
arrest,
the top
Welfare
Sentry
of my
missions. So
child.
what this type of automation
Please
does
hear me out,
is
okay?
it allows us to
I know this
focus
is
on
a very
what
stressful
is going to
situation
make
for
me
you,
better
okay?
at.
And if somebody like that was around my kids, I wouldn't like it. And I'm trying to do everything within my legal authority
and
to
things
prevent
that
from
fall through
happening.
cracks that like aren't quite as fun to figure out, at least for me. That stuff can happen
Describe what
behind
he's
the
done
scenes.
to make you feel alarmed and
Do you
disturbed.
see this? He's banging around, pushing stuff through the window, going in and out the
Has
window.
there been any threats?
No. I can't leave my
By
kids
some
here with them
estimates,
while I go get order of
Antietam
protection.
was and remains
I'm all out.
the bloodiest day in US history. Right, so that's taking into account the First World War, the Second World War,
You're slamming stuff around, blaring music.
everything that's
Her kids are trying to
happened.
sleep.
The reddest day
Dressers through the window.
of all was the Battle of Antietam on the 17th of September 1862. That's how
So
bloody,
what are you banging
that's how
against the house
devastating
with the dressers
for
for? Why
the
are they
United
moved?
States
Why do
psyche
you need to do that at 12 o'clock at night?
the American Civil War.
I told you I was.
Yeah, because they're in a dresser. That
The
makes
American
sense.
Civil War
He lies to you.
was, it's fair to say, in part about
I'm all
slavery,
out of cards.
about ending slavery, as far as the Union in the North was concerned.
Don't be
But
yelling or
it
you're going to
wasn't
get a citation.
always,
Officer
and it
Proof
certainly
badge
wasn't
number
only about that.
652.
What's the police department?
It
That's your police
began,
department.
you know, the North
Patrolman.
started it.
That's not applicable to
Because
us.
they were fighting to maintain the
Because I have a
Union.
complaint that I'm investigating.
The states of the
The complaint is
Confederacy
you acting disorderly.
seceding from the Union. They were saying, we've had enough
Well,
of
that
the United
signifies
States, we're
disorderly,
out.
buddy.
And so, before the fight started, had said, well, we're going to have a separate entity altogether. And so
You're
the
sweating a
North
lot. You
said,
need
no,
to go
you're
to the
not leaving.
hospital. Are you under the influence of any
But it
intoxicants?
became about slavery. But even once it became,
Yeah,
you know,
you're
after
free to
the
go.
Emancipation Declaration by Abraham Lincoln, President
Okay.
Abraham
Is
Lincoln,
that a threat?
even once slavery was
Hey,
on
you
the
have a good
table
night too.
as part of the reason for the fighting,
I'll just be
it
over
would
here in
still
the
be
car.
wrong to say that every Confederate soldier
So
fought
there's
to
the deputies that need to
preserve
give him some
slavery, and
paperwork.
every
Are you
Northern
able to like
soldier
meet
fought
some
to end
deputies
it.
somewhere like down in
It just
the
wasn't the
I don't know where
case.
you
There were
guys are
slaves in the North,
Go meet up with them somewhere. Okay.
slaves in the South,
Alright,
and
sounds good.
soldiers. All you
I
can
was just
really
telling
ever
her
say
that
about
there's
war is that
deputies
soldiers
who
fight
need
if they
paperwork,
fight at all.
so she said
Soldiers
that-
fight for as many reasons as there are soldiers. Mostly soldiers fight to stay alive and to protect those immediately
The deputies will explain more,
around them on the
but you get
battlefield
one
whose
time
lives they want to
after
preserve
that.
as well. And it's really what it comes down to for
Yeah,
most
no, because you
soldiers
haven't
most of
served
the
yet,
time.
so.
Now,
Yeah.
to get to the
Where'd you want to
specifics of
facilitate
the
meeting
love
on that?
letter, it's a love letter.
Just
I
gonna make
became
it
aware
difficult
of
on them then?
the Sullivan Ballou
Okay.
letter, for it is
All right,
called
well,
and known to history
I'll come
as
find
the
you at the
Sullivan
house then, I
Ballou
suppose.
letter. Because of a documentary series about the American Civil War was made by the director Ken Burns. And
He was
So,
trying to make it
depending on
better.
your
Now he's
appetite,
kicked down.
Ken
He's
Burns is
slept.
either a legend
Now
or
he's
he's
crying to my brother
not.
that he
And
wants.
he's a
He just
legend
waved
to
and
me.
blew me a kiss.
He's made many series about all
Okay.
sorts of things, about jazz,
In all
about
reality, he said last night, I'm moving to
Vietnam,
Tennessee with my new girl.
all sorts of things. But
Yeah.
maybe most of all, he's
Okay.
famous
I
for
think he'll get served tonight, because I mean, he's going to go to mom's
documentary
house.
series
So,
about the American Civil War.
yeah, no.
And the style of Ken Burns' documentaries I find utterly hypnotic because they're very, very simple.
I'll let you know.
It's
when
really
it's
about
officially served.
voices
Okay,
for the
yeah,
most
just
part
give me
and
a call
narration
when it's come over
over
because
gantry shots of
Basically, he gets one time.
I'm getting sleep.
black and white or sepia photographs, a camera
Part of the job, I guess.
infinitesimally across and into
Alrighty,
his
thank you.
images, while
Hello,
a sonorous
Officer Vic,
voice
Police
tells a
Department.
story. And then you go occasionally to talking heads, people give their opinions about this, that, and the other. But it's a very simple format, and I would say, you know, it's Marmite, but you either love it or you don't, and I find it absolutely hypnotizing to watch his content. And he gave prominence within an episode to the Sullivan Ballou letter.
Charges against the Fisher Police Department and all of that for harassment because you've been harassed me.
The letter in question is dated the 14th of July, 1861, and in the opening paragraph, Sullivan tells his wife, who's called Sarah, that it seems likely, inevitable, that he and the men are about to go into action. And as I say, first Bull Run was the first major set piece of the war, so you can imagine maybe the anticipation and excitement, fear, all of the emotions that were swirling around amongst those men at that time. So he tells her that they're about to go into action, and he wants her to know that he's thinking about her even as he prepares to fight, and even as he prepares perhaps to die. To quote from it, lest I should not be able to write you again, I feel impelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eye when I shall.
Oh, you get flustered. My mom called you emotional to your chief.
You know, I feel impelled. All of the content is strangely foreign to our eyes and ears. People just don't write that way anymore. Never mind the fact that they don't write love letters anymore. But if there's a moment, is it the moment of the writing or is it the moment of the reading? I would say probably the latter, when Sarah, maybe in the company of her two young sons, and the letter refers to the children. Maybe it's when she opens the envelope and starts to read. Maybe that's the moment that you might have to think about as matter. And it is the moment that seems to matter to me. And in any event, the content of the letter is almost unbearable. I defy anyone to read it and not struggle. In spite of perhaps even intensify because of the formality, because of the kind of respect that's being offered by the husband to the wife, even in the most intimate moments, very powerful about it. The memories of the blissful moments I have spent with you come creeping over me, and I feel most gratified to God and to you that I have enjoyed them for so long, and hard it is for me to give them up and burn to ashes in hopes of future years when, God willing, we might still have lived and loved together and seen our sons grow up to honourable manhood around us. Honourable manhood. Honourable manhood. Who thinks like that? Far less rights like that.
This officer actually had to respond to this house numerous times in one night after arresting the male.
We get about 26,800.
Lastly, something to think about is simple for police when there's visible injuries. When you're dealing with calls like this, most times it's just a paper trail until unfortunately something bad happens. And the woman did finally get a protection from abuse order and have the male removed. But in my opinion, I truly don't believe this is the end of this situation.
Dylan was charged with disorderly conduct and was served with the order of protection. He is innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law.
What's the truth about Nirav Shah? Shah
Here today, make no mistake about it. Here today, make no mistake about it, because of injustice. It is truly unjust that Nicholas O'Malley was forced to walk to a courthouse today when he instead should be walking his beat in Roxbury, meeting, greeting, interacting with, and hearing the concerns of residents there as he always does, protecting and serving the citizens of Roxbury as he always does. But instead, because of the actions of this district attorney's office, Nick was forced to walk to court today with his family and his legal team and his supporters to fight this unjust prosecution. He's being prosecuted, again, make no mistake about it, for doing his job. So I'm here today to publicly reclaim Nick O'Malley's presumption of innocence. Many of you were present and heard and listened and reported on the elected district attorney speaking outside the courthouse in Roxbury at Nick's prior arraignment. You heard District Attorney Hayden express his opinion from the comforts of his office on what Nick did on the street in a life and death situation. Let's be clear about it. District Attorney Hayden's opinion about whether Nick acted correctly, appropriately, reasonably, and necessarily is irrelevant. What is relevant is the evidence that will be presented in the courtroom, and we so look forward to presenting that evidence. We look forward to a jury hearing about a violent carjacker who punched a mother in the face while she was trying to pick up her daughter, who stole her car, such that she now still has to take Ubers to work, the night shift, to support her family. We look forward to a jury hearing about the choices that this violent carjacker made. The fact that he ignored lawful order after lawful order after lawful order and made the decision to slam that stolen vehicle into a police cruiser with 2 police officers warning him that he needed to stop, but he wouldn't. It was very clear from his actions that he had no regard for human life that day. He didn't care who was in front of him, who was in his path, or who got hurt. But Nick O'Malley did. It is his job to protect and serve the public and to make sure that his fellow officer is safe as well. And this man left him no choice. There is no police officer in this country that would have acted differently. And that includes the good men and women who, thank you, have shown up today in support of your brother officer, rightfully seeking justice in this case. I'm going to take a few questions, not many, and then I'm going to turn it over to the union president, a man I respect a lot, Larry Cohen.
Do you think that releasing the body camera video will give the public a better idea?
Well, ultimately, that will be released. My expectation is that it will be released in a courtroom. And let me make it very clear. We're not trying this case in the press. We have not leaked any information, nor will we leak any information. We're going to try this case by the book, and we're going to deal with the evidence in court and present our evidence in court.
David, you called the ADA's recollection of events sanitized. Can you speak about how you felt about what they had to say?
Well, I mean, you know, when you're a prosecutor presenting a case, perhaps you don't have the same emotion that would come naturally to somebody defending someone who's innocent of these false allegations. He should not be here today. He should be on the street doing his job as he's always done.
You were talking about the body camera video, how he showed his hand as like hit him again. The DA didn't say that.
Yeah, well, that's sure. Well, that's part of the answer to your question. You know, there is on the body cam footage. You see him put his hands up at once, but they go back down. And then there is lawful order after lawful order after lawful order, many, many times, all of them ignored. If he had just turned the car off and rolled down his window, as this lawful police officer ordered him to do very clearly, we wouldn't be here today.
You filed motions seeking access to Stevenson King's criminal history, past cases, stuff like that. Why is that important, and what is the status of those requests at this point?
Well, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, in Roxbury, for those of you who don't know, we did file several discovery motions. It was very difficult to get discovery material from the DA's office. I'm not sure why they hid it from us for this long. We saw the body cam footage and we saw initial police reports and nothing else, despite repeated requests. So we filed discovery motions trying to get a judge to say, hey, you need to be fair here. You need to turn this discovery information over to the defense. We're doing our independent investigation, but we need to know what they claim to have. Instead of complying with those requests, instead of responding to those motions, instead of allowing those motions to be heard, the DA's office, in my view, acted in a very cowardly fashion. They dismissed the case upon indictment. That's never done. Whenever a case is brought in a municipal court or a district court, the DA's office waits for indictment and they wait for arraignment before dismissing the case. That's just protocol. So it was clear, in my view, that they did that so that they didn't have to provide the discovery for us and they didn't have to have those motions heard. That's all the questions I'm going to take, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Calder.
This is the road where he grew up, where he came home.
Jericho Federal Credit Union was born and raised here in Maine. And like Mainers, we're built on grit and a lot of gumption.
On November 21st, 2023, a license plate reader system near Albuquerque, New Mexico, alerted state police about a wanted vehicle. The vehicle was suspected of harboring a fugitive who allegedly shot 4 of his neighbors over a property line dispute. Officers followed the vehicle for some time, waiting for the suspect to leave the city to reduce the risk of injury to bystanders. During this time, they were able to successfully identify the driver as the fugitive target and noted he had an unknown passenger. Eventually, the suspect vehicle entered the westbound lanes of Interstate 40, where additional state police and the U.S. Marshal Service assisted. Numerous undercover, unmarked police vehicles tailed the suspect.
We're just going to keep this nice and slow and let everybody get set in place.
K96 SECOM setting up stop sticks on the bridge at the 137.
One hitch, negative, trying to get in front of you. The only way we will is actually pass you, but I don't know if that'll still go.
We just passed the 145, 40 westbound number 2 lane, 70. I think the guy who's just not right for the stop stick, starting from Colorado, his driver, passenger in the passenger seat looks to be an older male, hat. Jack units, if you want to get up on track 1 as close as possible, that way we can start slowing down traffic.
Get over. Yeah, let them get up behind me and then we'll pull out, get in front of you and you guys can start slowing down. Target vehicle is a Dodge, correct? Silver Dodge with a camper shell. Camper shell on the back, Colorado plate.
Alright, you got 4 guys right here behind you. Alright, copy. We're coming up on the stop stick. Advise the exact location of the stop stick so everybody's out of the way.
K96 SECOM, it's going to be at the 130.
Bridge, 137 bridge.
37 bridge? What the f are they talking about? There's 131 and 126. There's no bridges in between there. They're just talking about the hole that goes underneath.
Get on this side, on this side, on this side.
131 bridge.
I got a double.
So there's 137 and the 131. And the 37, 131. To 126.
Passing 140.
140.
Target vehicle, 40 west, number 1 lane. Currently passing a semi-truck, speeds about 70.
No, they're still at the 140. Camper shell, silver camper shell. Silver Dodge. K960 units, just let us know when you guys pop over that hill.
Alright, UC trucks get up behind Mitch. He's right here on the left. Unit, get to the right and let the UC trucks get up to Mitch. Recorder's on.
Alright, crossing mile marker 137, crossing the bridge now. Cross the bridge, right? Yeah.
Was that it? That was it! Yeah, let us know!
Although you can hear one of the officers give them the heads up, the officers utilizing the stop sticks failed to receive the message. No matter, the police still have 2 more stop stick traps down the road to assist in the arrest.
Flight 6 not deployed. Vehicle number 2 lane.
Son of a gun, man!
Looks like vehicle just changed over to number 1 lane in between the semis.
Golly, man!
Number 2 lane, 75 miles an hour.
I know, dude, I told them to, gosh!
Alright, passing the 135 westbound. So next stop sticks is the 131, correct?
Next stop sticks is the 131. Attack units are moving up on the left, 2 UC units.
So that white Dodge in the number 2 lane, camper shell just ahead of these unmarked, is target. Okay, target vehicle is that white camper shell, just ahead of you, number 2 lane.
Currently passing 134 westbound.
Copy 133.
Yeah. So a lot of times too in these planes,
Just careful with the stop sticks at the 131 UC units.
Do you want us initiating a stop in the UCs, or do you want to wait for the spike and then?
We'll wait for the
sometimes
spikes.
you just piece
Passing
them together,
132,
highlighted
132. Break 131 spikes. Get ready. There's going to be a white semi coming up to the off ramp. There's two vehicles behind it. You will see a white truck, white camper shell.
And just past the 131, we'll be coming under the bridge. Light them up on the wrong lane. Copy 131.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Coming under the bridge is the white truck on the right lane.
At this moment, the commanding officer appears to have mistaken a different white truck with a camper shell from the actual suspect vehicle. Unknowingly, he is informing other officers the wrong information. It is unclear if the second set of stop sticks were targeting the incorrect vehicle. It is worth noting that body cam footage from the second stop stick setup is not available.
Yeah, it could just be a slight change in the variation of
I think it went into the wrong lane.
Pixelation.
Let's go ahead and try to stop it.
I'll pull up with 33s myself.
Slightly
If he tries to take over, get up towards the front.
Spikes at the 126 exit.
Spikes at the 126 with red 10.
Hey, he avoided the sticks.
He avoided him? Gene.
Sergeant, I'm out of range on my radio. He avoided the sticks. He went around them. Yeah.
I don't know what you said.
He avoided the sticks. He went around them. He saw them coming.
Okay, according to the UC vehicles that TAC are in, is suspect avoided the stop sticks. All right, let's go ahead and try to light it up right here, Gentet.
All right, all units get ready. We're going to try to do a felony stop, start slowing some traffic down. Hey, Sergeant, it's going to be more up. It's in front of the UC. This is a Chevy.
Okay, so it's not the white camper shell then that we were told.
No, it's a Dodge with a white camper shell.
It's going to be a Dodge pickup with a camper shell.
Yeah, not that Chevy, the white Dodge that's right in front of us.
All right, I got you.
Yeah, Colorado plate. We're still in the number 2 lane, 75 miles an hour.
128 westbound, 128.
128 westbound. He wants to go up ahead. Hey, please get ready to just get onto the number 1 lane. But we have stop sticks at the right up here at this overpass.
Is it the truck in front of the semi?
Negative. It's the truck right behind the semi. Behind the semi.
Okay, I got eyes. Just the number 2 lane. Watch the stop sticks. Back off. Positive spikes at the
126. Vehicles in the number 1 lane. Let's get up here and start trying to do a felony stop.
Positive spikes vehicle in the number 1 lane.
Vehicle is signaling to pull over. Stand by. Let's go ahead and block traffic.
Stop all traffic right here at the 126. We'll get all traffic stopped.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Hold on, I got
Both suspects exit the vehicle at roughly the same moment. One team of officers focuses on securing the passenger, while another team of officers secures the driver.
Hey, stop right there. Stop right there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I have seizures and I'm just letting you know.
Cool. Walk back towards me, ma'am.
Do you have anyone you want to?
Like that. Keep your hands up, okay? Okay. Keep walking back. Keep walking back. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up, okay?
Yes, sir.
Walk past me to this officer.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Get out of the car! Windows down! Windows down! Get out of the car! Driver's side! I got command! I got command! Hey, we got command! More command! I'm out of the vehicle. Keep your hands up. Stop right there. With the right hand, grab the collar of your shirt and lift up your jacket. With your right hand, grab the collar of your jacket, the back.
Hello.
Lift it up. Lift it up.
What are you doing?
Alright, stand for me. I need you to turn around.
This works really good.
Keep turning. Keep turning.
It massages your back at the same time.
Back up to the sound of my voice. Keep coming back.
She does look really nice.
All units, making 2 with the male subject. He is being cooperative down.
Wobbling around on the ground.
Winkles wobble, but they don't fall down.
I haven't eaten much since Papa made pancakes. I'm gonna be honest, those weren't too filling and tasted like ass.
What? The pancakes Papa made?
Yeah.
They
Usually he makes great pancakes, but those ones just weren't good. I don't know why.
I think he got a different
As the
brand
officers
of
apprehend the
pancake
suspects, one officer pulls up to the scene whilst quietly swearing to themselves, seemingly out of stress.
He's going to tell him his pancakes tasted like ass.
Some of them may just, as I say these words, which are only pointers, like signposts. As I say these words, some of you may be able to sense their own beingness. You sense that you are.
I'm gonna guess what he's gonna want. Let's see.
And
he's gonna want a
if
fried
you
egg
cannot,
sandwich, I bet
if you have no idea what I'm talking about yet, you're still trying to understand it mentally.
Place your bets. He's not gonna want
Let me
blueberry
take you
waffles. He
then
already had
gradually
those
into
earlier.
being.
I don't know. He had angel hair pasta the other day. He might not want that again.
Let's become aware of this moment.
Yeah, I think he did get a different brand.
And the first thing to become aware of in this moment is sense perception.
Yeah, there was a few different kinds. I remember Nana and I were gonna get. I think they had like a Krusties. You know that Krusties brand? It was like the donut brand.
And some of the others do tactile and so on.
Oh yeah.
The most
Place some bets on what you're gonna choose.
sense perceptions are the visual and the auditory.
Wait, place a bet on what you think I'm gonna choose, because I might have something in mind, maybe. Actually, let me go look.
Well, I was thinking.
This is you're becoming aware of the present moment, which has taken the form of sensory perception here and now. And you look around the room, or you see this person, so-called person, sitting on a chair, and you can take in the totality of the room. Question that arises is, are you able to take in the totality of your sense perceptions at this moment without any mental commentary? Just be like maybe like a 1-year-old child hasn't learned language yet and just looks in wonder and amazement at the world. You don't have to look like that, I'm just So you look around at the innocent perception without, is it possible for you, only you can answer that for yourself, but not through words, through just knowing. Are you able to be here in this moment? Allow your sense perceptions to be there. Being aware of all these things without commenting mentally. without interpretation. Just let it be. Like the Beatles song, Let It Be. Now there's a shift in consciousness that's already happened, because when you interpret your sense perceptions, that's the conditioning of your mind. It's a person perceiving things. But when you don't interpret, there's still a knowing there, but not conceptual. There's a deeper knowing. But the person isn't there really at that moment when you're not commenting, not interpreting, not imposing some kind of interpretation on the world. Then the person that was there before when you were commenting has been replaced by awareness or presence. So there was a person, but then the person comes to an end temporarily, and there's simply who or what is perceiving this room when you are not commenting according to the conditioning of your past. Who or what is perceiving this awareness itself. So something has receded, the person, and something else has arisen to replace it, so to speak. Awareness. That awareness is very still. Stillness is sometimes one can in spiritual discourse. Stillness is another important term. It's just another pointer. It's stillness. So, and that stillness is not a sleepy stillness. It's an alert stillness. And so a shift has taken place from being a conditioned entity, conditioned by the past, and now the shift has happened, and suddenly just you are that space of awareness. And so the next step in presence, you're not just, yes, you are aware of your sense perceptions and you're not labeling, but you're also aware of the awareness itself, through which you are able to be aware of sense perceptions. You're aware of your, let's say, words are very limited, but we have to use them. You're aware of the being of yourself, the presence that makes sense perceptions possible, the presence of consciousness that makes sense perceptions possible. And you can sense that not as a subject-object relationship, although when we talk about it, it sounds like a subject-object relationship because language operates in that way. Language has a subject and an object, so unless you use language, you say, I am aware of awareness. That creates a duality that's not really there. When you talk about it, there's an I that is aware of awareness, so there's two of you, but there isn't. It's only when you start talking about it.
If you voted for the egg
you become aware of yourself as awareness itself. Awareness becomes self-aware, whatever you want to call it.
He's eating some of the grooves while he waits for dumplings. He loves those dumplings. It's just the frozen ones from Walmart. He likes them both ways. He's having them fried this time with the soy sauce.
I don't know. They just asked me to put her in the unit. He's her caretaker, so she does have medications for seizures in here. I haven't even run her. They just threw her in the unit.
I was thinking of making a cake too.
My name is Nancy Medina.
Where do you have an ID, license out of?
Vanilla with chocolate frosting.
I can't drive because of my epilepsy.
Which one of these keys opens up that camper shop? Because it's locked.
I don't drive. I don't
Okay. We're gonna try. I might take you up there to get your dog here in a minute, okay?
For many people, their identities, I am a problem to be solved, that's seeking a solution. And then you go to a therapist.
therapists here. And some of you are probably doing fantastic work because you are able to, even though your client or patient is talking, perhaps you are able to be present while you listen instead of interpreting everything, but be the consciousness. And then perhaps some awakening can happen if you embody presence. So the big secret, it's not a secret, but it seems to be a secret, to be aware that you're conscious, to be aware of yourself as consciousness, as awareness, as presence, to sense the beingness of you, which is not the you, the limited you, it's actually the beingness of the universe in you. That's an amazing, the awakening of this transcendent dimension to who you are. So in English, we don't have a word that applies to both men and women. I don't know if in Swedish, in German you have the word Mensch, which means it's man and woman. But the English language doesn't have that. So you have to say human being, and that's great. I like that because I realize that points to the two dimensions that constitute your reality. You are a human, undoubtedly, which means you have a past, you have mental emotional conditioning that makes up the person or the ego, the personality. You have a life situation, you are a human, and you have your desires as a human, you have your goals, and so on, all the things that you experience as a human, right? Okay. But what about being?
Dumplings are almost done.
Overlooked by most humans. They are lost in their human nature. They are completely unaware of that transcendent dimension of consciousness that actually is the essential reality to who or what they are. And I sometimes call it your essence identity. The essence, your essence identity is the being of you, and the being is timeless. The being is consciousness itself. And then there's the human, and the two are together. And if you can awaken to the beingness of you, then of course you continue to be a human until you are no longer, until the body dissolves. In the meantime, your task, your mission, your purpose is to, as a human, to also embody the being. Then you have both dimensions in your life. The limited dimension of here that is temporal, inseparable from time, and you have the transcendent dimension to who you are in the timeless realm of consciousness itself, and that is a continuous realization. At first it may only come to you as glimpses in brief moments, and then you feel suddenly a sense of lightness and very peaceful but very intensely alive, and you go, oh. And you may realize you're not thinking in those moments. Thinking has subsided, but you haven't fallen asleep. You're awake. And then you may remember those moments. This was so wonderful. Sometimes it happens when you go into nature. If you can really be there, nature can help you in your awakening. If you can really be there with all the senses and be aware of the awareness itself when you're out there in nature. And sometimes it can happen to some humans almost accidentally. They're out, they're climbing a mountain, or they're swimming or somewhere in nature, and suddenly the person subsides and just an awareness arises, and they go, wow, and they think it's been caused by the beauty that they see, but it's not really that. It's been caused by the cessation of thinking. And you can have that in the middle of a city. And this is your continuous practice, are you able to, as much as possible, let go of especially habitual, useless, self-serving thinking. Thinking that only feeds the fictitious self, the ego, the entity that actually loves its problems. But it says, no, I don't love my problems. Yes, you do, because you talk and think about them continuously. In fact, you create them through unconscious thinking. You create them. No, I don't. Yes, you do. And that this entity then becomes, at first you have glimpses, sometimes accidental, and they may only be a few seconds, and then perhaps a little bit longer, and then the two gradually, the being and the human, kind of merge. The being seeps into the human, and so the human, the conditioned entity, the human, becomes less and less obnoxious and less dysfunctional and less creating completely unnecessary and absurd suffering for yourself and others. Completely unnecessary and absurd suffering created unconsciously by the ego, this entity, in its attempt to strengthen itself. It loves its problems and its enemies. Much bigger. Anger is great, really, and you can talk about it all the time. This is completely asleep. So, as the awakening happens, presence begins to sometimes completely replace the person, and at other times it kind of shines through the person in the same way that a light shines through the lampshade. The light shines through the lampshade, and the person still, the person still has its conditioning to some extent, and can never be totally free of the conditioning. There's always certain ways in which you behave. That's part to do with how you were brought up, your environment, all the conditioning, the country, even the language that you speak is the form of mental conditioning. All those things, they are still there, but the most dysfunctional and unhappiness-creating patterns, they subside more and more. Certain patterns remain as long as you are a person, a human. Certain patterns remain, but not the heavy, deeply unhappy and obnoxious patterns. They gradually dissolve, and all is left from the certain idiosyncrasies in your personality and so on. That's okay. So that the person remains, but it undergoes a substantial transformation. It no longer creates suffering. Now that would be a good thing according to some people. I really love myself. But it was more of an egoic thing, and what the myth really points to, by the way, his life deteriorated after that, but we don't need to go there. That he got punished by the gods or whatever. So yes, of course he did, because what this myth shows is the arising of the human ego, as you split yourself in two. There's me, the self, and there's I. So that duality is created. The mental image of me that you have a relationship with. So you have a relationship with yourself, which is very strange. Because you're not two. And you love your dog because the dog doesn't do that. The dog does not have a relationship with him or herself. And the cat doesn't either. But that's interesting. The dog doesn't love or hate himself. He just is. Doesn't know what about my life or self-esteem. I need to do something about my self-esteem. I'm not happy with the way I look. No dog says that. Of course, the dog is below thought. That's why the dog leads a relatively unproblematic life. And you have to rise above thought to become free of that. And then you just, in the present moment, you are yourself. And you no longer have a relationship with yourself. You don't hate yourself. You don't love yourself. You are consciousness. There isn't a self separate from consciousness. There's still some mind activity. Of course, you need the mind. But you don't derive your sense of self from the mind activity anymore. So that there's no self in it. The thinking is no longer invested with a sense of self. It's just thinking.
Just focus.
And so that removes a lot of the dysfunctional thinking. And then thinking is fine.
Because the most impressive person
it's quite lovely.
Is the one who's
amazing ability.
What are you?
And you become a better thinker. If you learn how to stop thinking, you become a much better thinker when you do think, much more effective, more clear, and you can use thinking as a tool for manifesting things too. There are books about that. It's not a secret. And that could be part of human life too. That's not the foundation for the spiritual life. Manifesting is a secondary thing. It's a bonus. Yes, it is the destiny of humans, of course, to humanity as a whole, eventually to live in a different state of consciousness, where all the stuff that we are doing now won't be necessary anymore. So that you can affect external reality through your inner state of consciousness. But the thing is, you no longer have this need for external reality to satisfy you, because that is the egoic need. And then what you create in your external reality is very different from somebody who needs external reality for self-satisfaction, for some kind of sense of happiness or fulfillment and that. Jesus pointed to the future possibility that is in the next stage in human evolution when he talked about faith. Now that's an interesting word, faith. There are two words used in the New Testament of Bible, belief and faith. Now they are confused and people have misunderstood the basic message because there's a confusion between belief and faith. In some languages even it's the same word, but fortunately in English you have two words and people don't understand, they're very different things. So in conventional Christianity it talks about salvation and it says if you believe in Christ and that he died for your sins, and so you partake a story basically, you believe this story to be true. If you believe that, you're saved. Now belief is, to believe something to be true means you don't know if it's true, because if you knew it, you would know it, you wouldn't believe it. I don't believe that there's a flower here, I know that there's a flower here. So belief implies that you don't know, but you are certain that it is the case. And usually belief refers to something that you believe in, a story or something you've been told, or the existence of something that you cannot verify. I believe in angels. Well, maybe you have seen them, but if you've seen an angel, then you no longer believe, then you know there are angels. You've never seen them, you believe in angels. Now, faith is something different, and because of the confusion of faith and belief, the misunderstanding arose in Christianity that the belief in a story can save you. What Jesus said is, what saves you is faith. And he said, if you have faith, even as small as a mustard seed, you can tell this mountain, remove yourself from here to there, and it will be done. Now what is that? That's very different from believing in a story. Faith is a deep sense of trust or connectedness. It's not faith in anything in particular, it's not a mental thing. Faith is not, belief is mental. The faith is to be rooted in being, and out of that being arises this enormous trust in life. And that really what we're talking about is the deep I. When you connect to the deep I, suddenly you feel rooted in something vast. That removes fear. And when fear is removed, you have trust. And when you have trust, that is another word for faith, that complete trust in this power that you feel that is not separate from who you are, but infinitely vaster than this little person. So you can sense that vast power in you, and sensing this power in you, which is consciousness that emanates from the source of all life, sensing that power in you is faith. It's not a mental thing. And so when you are connected with this power, then Jesus says in this parable, you can affect things in the outer world much more easily, and that is manifestation. And he talks about another thing. He says, when you pray for something, my translation is, feel that you already have it, and then you will it will be given to you. So you need to already feel the fullness of life now, which is when you connect yourself to the deep I. In that you don't need anything anymore. Anything you could obtain is already there. So when you try to manifest because you think you need something, then you're not very good at manifesting, but you may succeed, but it won't make you happy, it won't satisfy you. But the power is in you, and so anything you want to manifest, you feel that power, which is faith, trust, as an immediate realization. And then you might have a mental image which will no longer be egoically determined. It won't be something that you think is going to satisfy you eventually, or eventually make you happy, or famous, or make you into a saint, or become a spiritually evolved being. It's all future stuff. No, it's just an externalization of something that is already within you. So that power is the cream. The cream.
Good. Yes.
And the external things are the skimmed milk. So there's the essence
and I'm
of
gonna use
consciousness,
my watermelon
and
knife
anything you
to cut
achieve will be a manifestation of that consciousness that you can sense within you. So the thing is, it won't make you any happier. It won't make you any more fulfilled than you are now. Because if you think it's going to make you more happy and more fulfilled, it's still ego. You need to find the fulfillment and the true happiness by connecting with the deep I. Then anything else is secondary. And then you can play the game of life from there. You don't need anything anymore. And then when you don't need anything anymore, you can play with it. And many things come to you when you don't need them anymore. That's a lovely thing. A little disappointing for the ego, because the ego would love many things that then come to you. But when the ego isn't there anymore, the ego can't enjoy it anymore. That's a bummer. And unless you live with a person, you may not know their subpersonalities, because if you only know a person on a particular level of interaction, social interaction, or at work, then you may only know them as that, but you may not realize that they're in the rest of their lives, they're often in the grip of other forms of conditioning, subpersonalities. But when you start living with somebody, then you realize, oh, I was wrong about this person. I thought she was the greatest. It was so great when we were dating and looking at each other in the restaurant. And everything, there was this wonderful flow of love, real love. And now I don't know anymore what's gotten into him. Who is this? And then comes the thought, I made a terrible mistake. But that can be remedied easily these days, unless you've already signed a contract. You made a terrible mistake. There's always the app. Tinder or whatever it is. Okay, there may be alternatives. And so often relationships are short-lived. You don't even give it a chance, because it is possible quite often to work through this, given a minimum of consciousness in the other person. It is possible to work through it as a couple. But let's go back to the original question. There's turmoil. What do you do about it? Given that you know there's inner turmoil. Sometimes I say, well, it helps if you recognize, that requires of course some awareness. you recognize the futility of what your mind is doing. Let's say you're worrying, which is it's a way in which turmoil often manifests in human beings. It's generally called worry. Anxiety is the emotion that goes. Worry, one could say, is the thought activity, and anxiety is the emotion that amplifies and feeds the thought activity, and the two together, well, the two is called the state of fear, anxiety, plus those thoughts. I'm worried, oh. No, worry pretends to be necessary. I need to think about this. My life situation. I need to work this out somehow. I need to work. But what the mind is doing, it's not working anything out. It's creating scenarios, usually negative ones. If this happens, what am I going to do then? But what if that, and then what if I lose if I lose that, or they do that? I have to think about this. Think. And if at some point, if there's a minimum of awareness, you recognize that this whole process is totally futile. It has no purpose except it is self-serving. Something in you it has momentum and it wants to survive. So that's a huge gain if you can recognize the futility of certain types of mind activity. A lot of it is futile. Not only in worry situations, but also other situations when you unnecessarily label and interpret people and situations. We may be talking about this in more detail later. But let's say worry, you recognize the futility, it's purposeless. Okay, then that's a gain. But how do you see it's still there, it still doesn't want to go away? I sometimes say come into the present moment. That will help, because you might think you have huge amounts of problems, but at this moment, if you want to check, do I have any problems at this moment? Just this, because after all, that's all there ever is. So you might as well check to see, do I have any problem right now? The mind says, well, obviously not now, but you will tomorrow. But so you bring your attention into the now, and there is some reluctance. You can notice then something in you doesn't want that, and that's the momentum that's behind the movement of thought. But something else has come in that is enlightened, that brings light to this unconsciousness, and that says no. Let's go into the present moment. I see how futile this is, and let's go into the present moment. And there's still something in you that wants to pull you away from the present moment. So no, you don't fight it. So it's not that you can't tell the thought, go away, I don't want you, because that's another thought. And you cannot suppress an emotion. There's turmoil in you and says, I will not have this turmoil.
Was taken under the care of Oregon Department of Human Services. No one was injured outside.
You have to stop breathing, then you might notice. Don't do it. I'm just demonstrating. It doesn't work, that's why I'm just demonstrating it.
Between 2013 and 2021, Elias worked for the Yakima.
Sometimes occasionally when I had, many years ago, contact with Buddhist teachings and others, and I observed quite often Westerners who practice Zen. They observe the Zen master who seems quite rigorous and determined. Be present now! Attention! Pay attention! Says the Zen master. And then they try to imitate that. They think it's more to do with willpower, but it isn't. And so the Western meditator can sit for hours with enormous willpower, whereas some of the Eastern meditators, they don't use willpower, and so the Westerns think that they're achieving great things. They're not achieving anything. It's like putting a lid on a boiling kettle and holding it down. And when they stop their meditation, they go into there, and then you see how unconscious they are. Sometimes even more unconscious than those who don't meditate. But you bring your attention into the present moment. Okay. Now, when there's determined you need something to provide an anchor for the present moment, it may not be possible for you to just say, I'll be present. This is the present moment. I'm present now. I'm inviting presence into my life. That may not work yet. You might need an anchor, and that anchor could be the thing closest to you, for example, is your breath. To be aware of it, that you're breathing, quite simply. And continue to be aware of the breath as it moves in and out of the body. And you can still sense something else wants your attention back, but you say, no, breath. And your attention observes the inflow and the outflow of your breath. You don't need to even practice a particular technique of breathing, although there's a place for that too. It's enough to just be aware of the breathing happening to you. Because that's what it is. It's happening to you. It's always there. You cannot stop it. Something in you wants to live, and it's doing the breathing. The world isn't here to make you happy. The world is here to awaken you. Oh, suddenly it all makes sense. That's why I've been going through all that stuff. But if you suddenly reinterpret it because you've seen the truth of it, any so-called challenges when it comes up next in your life, minor challenge, big challenge. Challenge is a term that already has a little positive connotation to it. A challenge came into my life. If you remove a positive connotation, use a different word. It means something bad happening. It was really bad. That's how I perceive it. It was bad. But then if you become a bit more spiritual, say, a challenge. It was a challenge. And so, next time a challenge comes, you recognize it for what it is, and then usually before awakening, a challenge creates a reaction, a mental emotional reaction against it, and the reaction creates suffering. And the suffering is an important part of the egoic sense of self. The egoic sense of self thrives on it, actually. It doesn't want peace. It says, I want peace, but when you observe how the ego operates, it doesn't want peace. It wants the enemy, it wants the fight, it wants the resistance, it wants to complain. Every time it complains, it feels a little bit bigger. So it wants all those things. So the challenge then, before you awaken, makes you unhappy, ultimately. You react, it contributes to the unhappy self. And you complain in your mind and to others, why? And you know what, then that happened, and then he said that, and I said this, and of course you are always right, and the other is always wrong, that's understood. And then, so the challenge makes you unhappy until you begin to awaken. Then the challenge will help you to awaken more deeply. It will accelerate your awakening, because you don't resist it anymore, whatever is happening. There's no longer a complaining entity about the situation or about this person. There's no longer a complaining entity. You become aligned with the isness of now, whatever form it takes. Aligned with the isness of the present moment. And then it may appear as a challenge. Often a difficult person. Something going wrong, you miss your plane, the car breaks down, accident, or illness, somebody, your wife, your husband, goes off with somebody else. Oh my God. Oh, terrible.
The speeding truck was pulled over roughly half a mile down the road.
So this is a very important shift. When things go wrong, so to speak, they no longer make you unhappy. That's a huge game. So you gradually become free of unhappiness. It's a generic term. Unhappiness comes in many forms. Unhappiness is an essential part of the false self. It's an essential part of the egoic self. The egoic self, actually, it would never admit it, but it loves its unhappiness. Any therapist knows that when you work with a person and you reach a point where perhaps a disidentification could happen, provided that the therapist, him or herself, is awakened, so that's another story. There comes a point when you encounter resistance in the client, the patient, whatever you call it. They don't want to let go of the patterns. Of course, why don't they want to let go of the patterns that create suffering and unhappiness? Because they are identified with it. It's part of their egoic self. When I worked many years ago with individuals, I learned a lot from listening and sometimes speaking and saying things that I didn't know I knew. Well, I didn't know them until I said them. And there was a woman working with me when the first time I realized she had a terrible trouble with her husband. Everything her husband said created enormous irritation in her. And she's complaining about her husband. The way he eats, I can't stand the noise when he eats. The way he holds the fork and the knife, and the way he eats, and then the way he does, and then he sits in his chair. And I hate everything he does. I hate it. And I showed to her that, attempted to show that her suffering was not created by the husband. He wasn't a violent husband. He didn't beat her up. He was just irritating. And of course, any person that you live with for a certain amount of time tends to become irritating to a greater or lesser degree. So I thought, it's not your husband. It's what you are telling yourself about your husband and the emotions that you feel when you tell yourself those things. Are you able to just let go of that, and then he just does what he does and you no longer interpret it. She said, oh, if I let go of that, what have I got left? You would have to let go of yourself. So the very important thing to observe in yourself is, do you still have an antagonistic relationship with what's happening? In other words, are you making the present moment into your enemy? This is very common, but people don't know that that's what they're doing. Making the present moment into your enemy. In other words, almost always, wherever you are, there's a sense of discontent. You don't really want to be where you are. You would already be rather somewhere else. There's an underlying or you're doing something, whatever it is, but you would rather be already at the end of the doing. You don't enjoy the doing because you want to be at the end, or you want some other doing that comes after that. It's more important than this. It's how stress arises. Stress is the gap between now and later, which is later is a mental projection. So you're trying to get there, but you are here. So you're doing whatever you're doing here, activity, but you are stressed because you're not fully in it. You would rather be somewhere else. some other activity. Or if you're in the office, you'd rather be at home eating your dinner. If you're home eating your dinner, there's always the next thing. So never being able to be fully where you are. That's part of the dysfunction. So an activity, a place where you are, who you are with, where you live, you don't really like, it's always something wrong. All this is part of the egoic self, the patterns of the egoic self. And so that means you're making the present moment into an enemy, virtually. If not an enemy, you reduce it to a means to an end. In other words, it's only a stepping stone to the next moment, which unconsciously is considered to be superior to this moment. It's a very deep-seated pattern in every egoic self. Unconsciously, the next moment, or the one after that, or the one after that, is considered to be superior, more desirable than this moment. This is, if you could just become aware of that mind pattern and get rid of it by becoming aware of it, would quickly accelerate your awakening and bring about your awakening. Just that mind pattern, so that you're no longer reducing the present moment to a means to an end, or even regard it as an enemy, which means actively dislike it. This is either one or the other in most humans. So it requires a certain amount of self-observation to see whether this pattern still operates in your life. Because without self-observation, you won't even know that this is how you live.
At Blue Seal Farm and Home, we believe in the kind of life that's built around family, community, and the passions that make every day meaningful. Whether you're raising backyard animals, growing a garden, or sharing your heart with horses, we're here with hand-picked products and local support you can count on. We're proud to be part of a connected community, neighbors helping neighbors, sharing knowledge, and celebrating the lifestyles we all love. Because here, it's not just about what you do, it's about who you do it with. Your best life gets better here. Visit BlueSealStores.com for a location near you.
Are y'all looking at Realtor.com without me?
Honey, Mortgage Money 6.
Adversity is a wonderful opportunity, because adversity forces you to go deeper. Are you able to dig and find the foundation within yourself that frees you from fear?
Trump hasn't made a public appearance in 8 days. This is after the unscheduled visit to the hospital.
Certain actions take place, you do things you know they're not the optimal things to do, but you can't help it. It's something acts through you. There seems to be some power there that makes you do things that you know are not right or not good for you, and yet you can't stop it. That seems to be the case. And that, of course, is often the case with people who are with you. It might be many different areas of your life, but this is also the case with addictions. For example, people are addicted to a certain substance, or are addicted to eating too much or drinking. There's something that overpowers them in you, that seems to obscure the awareness, or the awareness is pushed to the side, and this powerful thing does it anyway. And again, my answer is a little bit similar to what I said to the first questioner tonight, the power of presence needs to grow in you so that it is strong enough not to. It's not willpower, because willpower is not the best way of dealing with these things, but it's what I'm talking about could sometimes be confused with willpower, but willpower includes the application of a force to hold something down. Let's say if your addiction is to to indulge in intoxicating beverages, in other words, booze is the British word, and you can feel it, it comes on, there it comes, you know the bottles are there they are, and you feel you have to go there, you have to reach out and you have to pour yourself a drink. Now, when you're not aware at all, you don't even know what you're doing, you're so unconscious that you're already holding the drink and you're drinking, then you, at that point you even know that you're drinking. The same with food. I've spoken to people who have had addictions to food. They often say they wake up when they've already eaten in the middle of the night, they've already unconsciously gone to the fridge, taken out the chocolate cake, and they're already halfway through the chocolate cake when suddenly they say, what am I doing? But so awareness comes in at a very late point. Willpower would be to hold an urge down. Let's say alcohol, they have to pull, or even what the example you gave, you want to turn on the TV, and you know it's not right because I'm not here for that, and he actually told us not to do it. But I can't help it. I have to go. I can't. No, willpower, you would say, I'm going to hold this down, I'm not going to do it. And I can feel the urge, but you're holding it down. When you hold things down, often after a while, an explosion happens. It's like a boiling kettle. Can't hold it for that long, and then you have some kind of rationalization in your mind. You do it anyway. The mind will give you a reason. I spoke to a man who is addicted to food, and his body was very unhealthy because extremely dangerously overweight. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he was a wonderful man, and he talked to me, and often before he goes to indulge in excessive eating, his mind would say something like, you've had a rough day, you really deserve a treat. It explains why it's the right thing. I'm not going to do it for much longer, but just today I really need a treat. Life hasn't been treating me, but it's the only pleasure I have. What shall I do? It's all I have. There's no other pleasure in my life. Okay, go to the fridge.
People keep bringing that up. Why was he pregnant? Why
attempted to
how come someone doing the same thing? It's 20 years
to show him that this thought is a deception.
So what do you want to do?
I had a little bit of success, but unfortunately it was too late to save him. Well,
I think the point
is no longer in the body, but that's okay.
That not only the president's son, but many other people all around you have drug problems like that and do those things. And they will pick and choose who they want to rap as some kind of criminal or bad person for doing those same exact things.
Again, what I said to the first questioner, to practice presence power when you're not particularly tempted by anything, and you're just in your room, there's no particular temptation. Go into the body, feel the inner body, be aware,
smoking crack and
be present,
ordering some prostitutes.
Sense perception, I recommended that practice. Sense perception, feel the presence.
Or supplying
pervading every cell in your body, the inner body awareness.
I think the takeaway is for people to understand that, when
this
and
impulse
they
comes,
will say, oh, that should be a lot of time in prison and makes them a bad person.
Don't say go away or something like that, because it won't go away.
Right.
You'll do it anyway.
Unless
the impulse comes,
you have
whatever
a
it may
cushion or a
be,
good reputation,
and you observe, you realize it's not a good thing that it wants you to do.
Right, depending on the history of their crimes.
If there's enough awareness, use it as every time an impulse of that kind comes. This is your special spiritual practice. So instead of wanting to get rid of it, welcome when an impulse of that kind comes, and see that this is a spiritual practice specially designed for you. Of course it is. And so how do you transform this into spiritual practice? First you realize this is an opportunity for practicing. And the first thing you could do is you practice delaying, obeying the impulse, not obeying it immediately, but delaying it, and you observe that.
I mean, I don't know.
Let's say you wanted to go to the TV and turn the thing on.
What's been going on
Or
here?
you feel the impulse. Or say,
I mean,
okay, here's my next
is one
spiritual
thing.
practice.
I'm concerned about the children.
I'm now going to delay
Hostages.
the turning on of this show on TV for 3 minutes.
Pretty much educated.
And during those 3 minutes,
helps with prevention,
you observe the impulse.
Yeah, no, don't give him any ideas.
You observe it has
You
it's
wouldn't
an
want to give
energy
him any
form.
ideas.
And you observe it. Oh,
Stop
there you
the
are.
marijuana.
There
you
you
don't
are.
want to give him any ideas.
Do you feel it? It's like a little gremlin or something. And so this time gap can be a very useful first practice, that you introduce a time gap before you give in. You're not saying, I'm not going to give in. No, you say 3 minutes. During those 3 minutes, I'm going to observe you. And you shine the light of consciousness, the light of awareness on this impulse, which is an energy form. And it can be an energy form that is in you as a kind of emotion. It can also dangerously invade your mind and make you, the explanation I gave just now with this friend of mine, the thought comes into your head that explains why you should give in to this impulse that can happen easily. And there too, you need to be present enough, sufficiently aware, so that you do not believe in every thought, especially those kinds of thoughts. You don't believe in every thought that comes into your head. You observe the thought because the thought is part of it. And even to the thought you say, oh, there you are. There's the thought, and there's the feeling behind the thought. And you set aside 3 minutes. During those 3 minutes you observe that. Isn't that interesting? Wonderful spiritual practice. And while you observe, you grow in consciousness. You apply consciousness to it. Only 3 minutes. And then after the 3 minutes, see how you feel. It may have dissolved, but probably not yet. It's still there. And then you can see, can I do another 2 or 3 minutes? Am I strong enough for that? Is my awareness strong enough? And yes, it is. Don't believe you might, oh no, stop this nonsense, do it anyway. And so then you achieve 5 or 6 minutes of, and then what happens after that we don't know. It is possible that the impulse has receded, gone back to a dormant state, and you don't have to do it. It's also possible that the impulse is still there, and you cannot, after 5 minutes, there's not enough awareness left, and but you have to go and do it. But at least the 5-minute interval, the time gap was very important. And when anything like that happens, you always introduce a time gap for your spiritual practice, during which you do not hold it down, but you observe it. So you don't push it down, you observe. Oh, there you are. So if it's a gremlin, you don't say you hold it down. No, you there's a gremlin. You look at it. There it is. Oh. Now the interesting thing, when you apply awareness to something, you shine the light of consciousness on it. The possibility of transformation is also there. It arises as you shine the light of consciousness on it. This is the famous example from fairy stories and so on. The frog. You don't kill the frog or do something with it. You kiss the frog, and the moment you kiss the frog, it turns into the prince. And so the frog stands for, this is like mythology. There's some wisdom embedded in these fairy stories, which, by the way, were not, many of them were not created by the people who wrote them. They were already orally transmitted over long periods of time, so they are mythologies that often contain a lot of wisdom. And there's certainly a lot of wisdom in kissing the frog, which then turns into something beautiful. So there's something ugly, but you give it an acceptance and love. You look at it, and then transformation happens. So that is the spiritual practice, and after a while you will find that initially, perhaps after the time gap, you still do it, but then gradually this time gap gets longer, and then you may observe that the energy behind the impulse weakens, and it subsides until next time. But gradually it weakens, and all these self-sabotage mechanisms then begin to gradually disappear if you apply the awareness to it, observe them. There it is. So think of the frog. These are all the frogs and whatever they are, gremlins, frogs, that live in you as energy fields, and the energies are trapped there. They are not in themselves bad. They are trapped, like the pain body is an energy that is emotional energy that's trapped. When the pain body dissolves, it transforms into presence. It's like a fire. You put a log into a fire, or it's consumed and transmuted, perhaps is the word. It's transmuted into presence. And here we have again the famous example of, in Middle Ages, certain philosophers were very interested in alchemy. Alchemy was supposed to be the transformation of base metal into gold through a chemical process of transformation. But the true meaning behind alchemy was the transformation of human consciousness. They have many images and so on. They could not speak and write about this openly, because they would have been executed by the church at the time. So they had to hide all these symbols as if it were to do the transformation of base metal into gold, of something that is, first of all, not very desirable, into something wonderful. And that's the alchemical process of transmutation, which really is something in the human psyche. There's an entire long treatise written by Carl Jung, the psychologist, which on alchemy, with countless illustrations and just fascinating things. But it's the transformation of something undesirable initially into awareness or into consciousness. So, and this is so you're lucky to have that tailor-designed spiritual practice for you. So
keeps complaining about Israel, I might have to start.
Wonderful practice. That's your practice. It doesn't matter where you practice.
I don't know why so many third worldists.
Wherever you are in your life, you practice. Every situation, every moment is the two dimensions.
Flags in the Capitol. Like, I actually agree with you guys. But the difference is that, like, there is a third worldist derangement syndrome against Israel that's masquerading as America first.
And that's the end of fear comes with that.
Thank you.
Fear being a normal human condition for most people, sometimes buried under something else. Fear in its many manifestations, nervousness, tension, anxiety, anger is really comes out of fear. Stress really is a form of fear. All many forms of fear, quite normal. Why?
They are actually like these like fucking these
That's all you know.
people that come
That's
into
fear.
America and want to vote based off of foreign
You don't know
issues.
that.
They are an invasive species. I am
Once you know that also,
Democrats are realizing that, and then
it's the end of fear.
process.
Because there nothing can be destroyed.
They don't care about America.
That's why the Course in Miracles starts, which is all you need to know, the prologue, the first, before it all starts. It says this course can be summarized in the following words. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Nothing real can be threatened, and that is here. Because nothing unreal ultimately exists in the world of form. The form is ultimately not real in itself. Nothing unreal exists. Herein, which means knowing that, lies the peace of God. God, of course, is the formless, timeless, eternal, unmanifested, that is both within and beyond the world.
It all started in some sense with the lectures I did on Genesis in 2017.
It's amazing how many of them
my family and I took a risk
programmed
and rented out a theater in Toronto on the off chance that there might be an audience for what might be described as a psychological approach to our ancient stories. And
some of you, as I mentioned earlier, are able to step out of their mind, and you can practice that through a conscious choice. Be present.
Millions of viewers,
Nothing to think about right now, just be present. You don't carry your history with you when you're present.
That is not a phenomenon that can be easily accounted for.
Your life situation. I use that word in Power of Now. Very important. Your life situation. Everybody has one. Past, future, relationships, job, health, finances, where you live, what happens to you, and all your life situation. You have a life, you're here with, you have a life situation, of course you do. But you also have, it's not that you have a life, you are life itself. And when your life situation is all you know about yourself, which is another way of putting, that's all you know, then you miss life.
When they are children,
no, you're very good at dealing with your life situation,
which often include toy weapons such as guns.
But you miss life. You do all the right things, but it never really gets you anywhere because you miss life. Life is now. And life is not in the doing. Life is in the being. No.
Particularly if it's competitive, and who value a docile, harmless obedience above
Step out of thinking
shades of
into alert stillness, if you can.
Because that's not enough, even when pursued assiduously for total demoralization.
And also, another way is
the inculcation of an extremely damaging ideology, which essentially consists
not to completely believe in every thought that comes into your head.
Human culture,
Realize it's a thought.
is best construed as an
It's a
oppressive
position.
patriarchy,
It's a
motivated by
judgment.
the desire, willingness, and ability
Not completely
to use power
identified with
defined
it.
as the compulsion of others against their will to attain what are
It's a
purely
story
selfish and
that you are telling
self-serving
yourself.
ends. This is true at every
It's amazing
level
how
of
many
analysis.
stories people tell themselves in their head.
Slavery, friendship to exploitation,
Many are completely distorted. It's not the reality, it's the stories, how you see the reality. The reality usually is much more simple
not only of the current
and more
social
benign
conditions that characterize our
than the
culture,
story.
particularly in the West, but also the fundamental reality of history itself. Accusation number 2. Human activity, particularly
One of the early lessons in A Course in Miracles says you're supposed to look at things around you in the room and say, nothing that I see in this room means anything. This table doesn't mean anything. This glass doesn't mean anything. This hand doesn't mean anything. This floor doesn't mean anything. Now, what does that lesson mean? Doesn't mean anything. What it means is, it's attempting to erase the continuous conceptualization of reality, like scribblings on a blackboard, because whatever you think it means is a concept in your mind. And if you deny the continuous and compulsive conceptualization of reality, it's like erasing the conditioning of your mind. And coming to the place where the Dalai Lama is, don't know.
Visible signs of aging, slow it down. Lay super serum balm.
So this lesson in A Course in Miracles, all it's teaching is to come to the place of spacious.
Higher education is outdated, irrelevant. But at Grand Canyon University, we shatter the status quo. GCU's online master's degree programs in cybersecurity help prepare you to safeguard information, visions, and at GCU, you can offer cybertext that This is purpose-driven education. Take action. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit
Emptiness,
GCU.edu.
alertness. No longer trapped in conceptual thinking.
Accusation number 3.
Doesn't mean anything.
The prime contributor both to the tyranny that makes up the oppressive patriarchy and structures all of our social interactions, past and present, and the
And of course, that's another.
despoiling of our beloved Mother Earth, is damnable male
You're moving
ambition,
into a different
competitive and
dimension.
dominating, power
By
mad, selfish,
living in this way, it's just
raping and pillaging.
you inhabit. Suddenly, life opens up,
Overstating the case. Think again,
and all the narrowness that the mind had imposed on it dissolves, and life becomes spacious because you found the space within. There's suddenly a spaciousness to life and not a threatening place anymore. What's life going to do? Where's this next threat coming from?
That hated word of all things, the divine logos. And what should we worship and celebrate properly other than that? Deconstructionists, the words of that mass murderer Karl Marx.
And again, the same thing, for example,
And it is precisely those young men who are deeply conscientious.
there's an entire spiritual teaching based on denying the reality of your story. And Byron Katie's teachings is based on the simple fact of denying your story. How do I know? Do I really know that this is true? No, I can't really know that.
It is essentially satanic in nature.
So you get you to the same place where the Dalai Lama is? Don't know.
Morally, psychologically, practically, and scientifically. It is literally anti-truth. It's not a mere misstatement.
So it's a wonderful thing if you can enter that not knowing, and then, but it's only not knowing from the viewpoint of the conceptual mind, you're actually connected with a deeper intelligence, unconditioned.
The Christian church is
And if you really need to know something, it comes. But it comes out of the spaciousness of not knowing.
A garden to walk in, a family to nurture, an ark to build, a land to conquer, a ladder to heaven to build, and the utter terrible catastrophe of life to face.
Well, it's a little bit like jumping off a cliff and then seeing if you can fly. To the ego, it's a little bit like that. The ego says, don't go there, because the ego has worked it all out. It explains the whole, it has its philosophy of life. It might be a very defective, limiting philosophy, but it has some kind of philosophy of life. Every person has their story through which they interpret reality. And usually it's not a pleasant work of fiction. But at least you think you know. It gives you some illusory foothold. And of course the ego thinks, I can't, if I let go of that, I won't know anything anymore.
And sometimes deeply so.
Which in a way is true, but not completely true. In a deeper sense, is you only let go of a distortion of reality created by the conditioned mind, which is part of the collective human mind in its present state of evolution. And so the collective mind, of which your mind is part, has created this human-made world, which is full of problems, and they seem to be, they pop out one after another. When you think one thing is better now, suddenly, oh God, now it's the economy, and it's that, and it's that. Another war. What has happened through the gradual evolution of thinking is that now humans tend to overthink. There is a lot of not only unnecessary thinking that generates unnecessary and in many cases non-existent problems, such as when you lie awake at night in bed and start worrying. It generates a lot of unnecessary unhappiness. So people don't realize that a significant part of the unhappiness in their lives is actually generated by unnecessary, negative, often destructive mind activity, and they don't even know it. Mindfulness is first of all discovering the simple fact that there is a voice in your head that continuously comments on your life or on what's happening around you. It's the self-talk in there. Everybody knows what the self-talk is in there. You talk to yourself. Sometimes you talk to yourself in the first person, I. Some people talk to themselves in the second person, you. So you can get annoyed with yourself, and then you say, you shouldn't have done that. And then you have another thought.
Of course we agree with all that. Yeah, and then you have some of these cases where even when people wake the fuck up and they get struck with the truth, they wake the fuck up. Yeah, they go to rehab, they better themselves. It happens every fucking day. They fall off the wagon. They're doing great. Awesome. How many days? Great. Right. So the kids are still being fucked and tortured when you have these cases. So see how we agree with all of that. That's great and wonderful. Right, and you should do that. And it's happening every day. People take a better path. Tell me about it. Right. So, just for anyone listening to understand that for us at this level, in this world, in this universe, in this realm, on this planet, okay, they're fucking the kids and making child and animal pornography and feeding it out to a lot of activist groups. And there's a lot of people within all these occupations and groups and businesses and chasers and feeders and investigations. And a lot of those people all have lives to live. Some are falling off the wagon and on the wagon. I know, you gotta help them. Fuck, dude, wake up. Right, so anyways, I think people realize this. They still gotta keep on trucking. They have jobs to do. They're doing their jobs. It's okay. Anyways, just we're trying to get the public to understand that. That's all. They know. They're doing the best they can. Much love and respect. What's that? Someone told us to keep it down one day, and we told them to shove it up their ass. Yeah, when you're talking to criminals or sick fucks or people, you don't... Right. That's a different situation. It's kind of like... You don't just call someone a motherfucking piece of shit for no reason. You'd have a reason. No, I don't think it's evil or wrong to say that at all. I think maybe in some situations it may be uncalled for, or to cast like, oh, those Catholics, bunch of motherfucking pieces of shit. Republicans, damn those fucking Republicans. Fuck the police. Doctors suck. Listen to your doctor. Listen to your doctor. Oh, so funny. Yeah, no, we're very specific. Yeah, and so just for an example, yes, very recently, probably within the last 72 hours, someone told us keep it down and we said shove it up your fucking ass. Motherfucker. Yeah, when we're talking to sick fucks or criminals or people responsible for a lot of the crime and fraud in our community that are protecting sick motherfucking pedophiles fucking our children. Yeah, I mean, yeah, when those people tell us to keep it down, we might say fuck you and then walk away. We're not going to egg it on and try to incite any violence. Dude, you can't fucking incite violence to a numb fucking monkey like that. There's no inciting violence to them. Dude, they are fucking so gone. So past that. I don't know, maybe I can come up with an open-handed rap for you. My name's Mary, Governor Hill Mansion, Augusta, Maine. We've lived here since 2006 when our family's home got burnt down in a fire. You know, I say some savages threw a fireball through the back window. I think other people that were concerned about liabilities and vengeance games too, on top of that, got other people and savages to do it for other reasons. Yeah, it's really easy. That's how that works. When you start to see that, it'd almost be like, hey kids, go throw rocks at that Karen. Hey kids, go scream in that Karen's face and see if they get angry. Hey kids. Right. So the kids have nothing to do with whoever told them to just go do that, get the non-vaxxer, get the bully, the Karen, investigate. You can see this goes from young children playing games to the hazing and tating bullshit and cheating scams, drug investigations, which involves a lot of different occupations and straight people. All different occupations. I know, you're all doing a great job. beautiful. You know, it just, the awareness helps you to not get too lost with shit that is really fucking childish and stupid, blind missions. I know, but when that's all you can do, right? Look at the doctors that have literally killed themselves about the vaccine. That one doctor, he felt so guilty, he was literally injecting him with stuff that wasn't even the vaccine. It was a bogus vaccine. It was saline, water, nothing. Yeah, he killed himself. Supposedly. Dr. Koinis, look it up. I think it's Konis. Koinis. I don't know, something like that. But that's just an example of many, you understand? There's so many. And a lot of suspicious ones, too, you know? Yeah, that wasn't a suicide. Right, and why would they want to get rid of doctors trying to expose the truth about vaccines? No, when you actually look at what's been going on, there's a lot of people. The blood clots, the myocarditis, it's already been proven. And then the years we dealt with people getting the hags and the fear propaganda. I mean, it got so sickening to the point where they're gonna make you eat maggots. I mean, by that point, it was so far gone. Yeah, why not jump on board? Look at all the money you get from those psychos. Right, David Wilcock? Wait, he vaporized himself. Son of a bitch. What did Big Bird say? Big Bird said. This guy, Steven. And a dog named Blue. Oh, paprika. Here's the mail, it never fails, it makes us wanna wag our tail. What a scallywag. What a scallywag. But yeah, anyways, we've lived here since 2006 when our family's home out in Whitefield got burnt down somehow. I think it got written up as rats chewed through the wires. Yeah. Dad said it sounded like an explosion. It was run by Catholic Charities fully, and then 2009, one of my brother's drug buddies from Whitefield, I don't know if he kind of bought it out. I don't know, the bank said that he had to keep my parents here because my mom had been working here since the 90s and kind of running the place. I don't know, really, what the stipulations were there. For me personally, I see the show, you know. You gotta show a lack of, responsibility and laziness on their part. They're psychotic. They believe in ghosts and aliens, dude. Listen to them. Yeah, it's real fun and games until people's kids start getting fucked and tortured. But no, that's just MK Ultra. They just were making the psycho crazy cartel person think that's a non-vaxxer too. Can you lift it? Can you lift it? It's heavy, boy. It's heavy. You can do it. I couldn't lift it. I tried. I guess I didn't pump enough iron. I took all my Flintstone vitamins and everything. Oh, tidings of God. enjoy. Yeah, so the private investigator, Christopher LaJoy, who shot himself in 2009, ironically that same year, there was a lot of chaos going on. And when you look at a lot of the workers, yeah, you know, he owns breweries and the Liberal Cup and, you know, the fucking psychos with their bullshit parties and nonsense and the fucking games they were playing with my parents. Tried telling them, they didn't want to listen. Private investigator blew his brains out, supposedly. Sorry to say it that way. I apologize. I loved and cared for him very much too. So if that offends you, if someone who loved and cared about him, I'm sorry. But that's what happened, right? Right, and then the fucking psycho. Yeah, they took off down to Florida, huh? I know. And when you look at a lot of the investigations and shit that was going on in the 7-Eleven stings, right, Bongino? They've all been explaining this to each other. It's a big couch, ain't it? Yeah, and just it only takes a few fucking nasty pieces of shit slugs. Get your fucking Botox and go to your next fucking fundraiser for the children, you fucking psychos. I'm sorry. What did I say? Hey, Tucker, you want to get real? You know, I mean, does it do any good? Is it going to help the kids? What are you going to do about it? Yeah, no, we know these fucking cases. We've seen these cases so many fucking times, and those kids get fucked and tortured till they die. We see a lot of murder-suicides, and we've already seen a lot of people get targeted and killed them trying to cover up this shit. Fuck you. You're not going to tell us shit, dude. Right, so anyways, hopefully the proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine do what they're supposed to do. The abuser's name is Michael Scott Garand. Yeah, the little boy he beat up in the tub, 2012. I know, the psychos and druggies around here, and the ones that have moved away. Yeah, the little brat probably deserved it. It was just a whack. I know, you're living in a world of what the fuck. We were already traumatized and paranoid at that point by 2012 with certain doctors and private investigators and good people that had disappeared and committed suicide. No way. There's some that it's like, no, that was not a suicide. I know, and then when that doctor got hit with a Mack truck, ironically, the shit they were talking about, they were aware of some of the drug batches that had gotten laced. Right, and remember even Dad he kept complaining of this fucking rash on his legs. It was burning, man, fucking burning. No shit. Right, and remember the doctors out at Sheepscott, they're like, oh, it must be from you're scratching your legs on the bushes. You know, the dogs are pissing in the bushes, and then you're scratching your legs on the bushes when you mow the lawn. It's probably from that. You want some more cream? Some steroids, maybe? Antibiotics? See if we can help you out with that. Right, so anyways, yeah, she got hit by a Mack truck while riding their bike. I'm pretty sure that's still up for investigation all these years later. But again, even if you prove it and people wake up to the truth, how are we going to help the kids in the hands of these sick fucking punks? They're right in broad daylight. We've pointed out handfuls. Oh, some of them are already dead. The kids don't usually get saved, like we told you. Yeah, we're so past that. That's, you know, you try to explain that to people, and then when people try to say, oh, we're the stupid ones, and why would we be saying the things we're saying and not being more on the down low? And it's like, yeah, no, the secrecy and being on the down low is what gets people fucking killed. We've been way past that, like 2012, 2013. It was way fucking past that, dude, and we told those sick fucks they weren't gonna get away with it. I know, when you look at stuff that got spiked at that time, Edward Snowden, Tony Robinson, Kennedy's wife hung herself. I mean, I can keep going. Just go back to 2012, 2013, and you will see. They vaccinated our kids behind our back. Right, Dr. Baker? Winthrop Family Practice? You and your activist friends. Are you big Trump supporters, or... Right, so this fucking bullshit to people like us who don't even fucking vote and all your political bullshit and marketing scams, you can take it all and cram it right up your fucking ass. It's sick and disgusting how people are ignoring the concerns and the dangers of all this shit they're injecting into people, and you carry on with your fucking daily lives and, oh, I'm 4 days sober and I'm on psychedelics. Isn't this great? Let's go to a fight match. Yeah. Fucking sick pigs. Anyways, much love, health, and peace to the rest of you. We're going to go back to class. We're enjoying our green tea with a little bit of lemon and aloe. It's quite divine.
Daytime, if you're walking, and there's a long weekend here, and tomorrow is a holiday in Canada here.